All right,
Great.
so today is episode 15. We're talking about the law of attraction.
Why aren't you hitting record? Oh, you are?
Piece of shit,
like,
yeah.
Why is it recording?
Messed up my intro. No, this is good. I'll keep all this in. We're talking about the law of attraction and what?
Oh, it really works.
How it really works.
Yeah. How the law of attraction truly works. I think that was the suggestion.
Great. Clearly, we're using it right now. But I thought this was a great topic that was suggested in the group call we just had, right? Self-Leaders Club, yeah.
Exclusive, invite only.
Yeah.
I thought we were supposed to tell people about it, guys. What the heck?
Oh, I tell people about it all the time. They just can't get in.
It's okay. I'm not invited.
You got your own club.
Men only. She
Doesn't
literally
mean I don't
did
wanna be a
create her
part of
own
more.
club, though, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes, in reaction to not being in that club,
Yes.
as well as see the need for it.
That's what
Yeah.
responsibility is. Did you attract that into your life or did you do it? That's perfect.
I did it.
That's the
Nice.
difference.
Nice.
She was like, let me align my vibration so that, I get into some club.
Okay. Sorry, Jake. Well, go ahead.
I was just gonna say
I attracted it. I attracted that.
This is great. I was just gonna say, ask if you can hit on because you had that question of like, did you attract it or did you build it? What do most people think of when they think of the law of attraction?
And let me preface this by raise your hand if you thought all of that was actually how it worked before. Like you just like feel it enough, align your emotions.
Like you start your day with gratitude, and you'll attract more gratitude in your life.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was It was repeating it in my head or out loud over and over again. Like at one point, I wanted to be like a YouTuber, and I just told myself all day long.
Kind of worked.
I just told myself.
I can't do this podcast anymore. I believe it again. I believe it again.
I just told myself over and over all day long, like, I am the most popular YouTuber in the world. I make the best videos in the world. I am a YouTuber. I am a world-renowned YouTuber. I make money on YouTube. Like those things, like literally, I'm sure it was like 3 hours a day at the most, at least 1 hour a day that I would just be like saying these things out loud or in my head, like while I'm doing other stuff. It was crazy. And I just like realized how much time I was wasting. Like what?
You weren't making any videos. You weren't.
Literally was just saying it. Like what? It doesn't even make any sense.
It's like, imagine like that's how you think it works, and then like you search on YouTube one day and you see like this channel and it's you, and you have all these videos and all these things. You've literally never made a video, and you're like, it works. That's how I think people think it is. Like money's just gonna come to you, and you're gonna get a $15,000 check in the mail, and it's like
the videos are gonna make themselves without me even making them, and it'll be of me. It's how that works,
I don't have to learn how to speak or anything.
You've been following me. Yeah. I think there's so many different angles we're going to take this. We can talk about conscious, subconscious, unconscious. We could talk about the actual benefit of focusing on what you want, because there is a practical point in it. But a lot of people are going to look at, Jinn, for example, and what Jinn teaches. And the problem isn't the Jinn training. It's how we interpret the Jinn training.
And for anyone who doesn't know Jinn, it's Global Information Network, and it really all this goes back to an audio series called Your Wish is Your Command, or people who listen to The Secret and things like that. It's like law.
And it's the reason why we all know each other.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I totally attracted you all into my life.
No.
You know what I found? Just real quick, I might as well just get the secret out of the way. But what I found, the secret to the law of attraction is just being attractive. You notice that? Like, if you're just attractive, you just get whatever you want. Isn't that weird?
That's why you shave your beard. That makes sense.
That's why you go to a barber.
That's why I have been to a barber at some point in the past. Yes.
That one time where the guy said, I'll hook it up. Right?
He said, "Do you want me to hook it up?" I was like, "Sure, dude." And then we fist bumped it. We fist bumped.
Fist bumped it.
We fisted each other.
And that's why my hair looks great.
That was for the other podcast.
That's the after hours. You dare me. But yeah, so in regards to what Drake was saying at the start, KD always says where the rubber meets the road, right? You know how he always says that? He'll talk about a bunch of stuff, and then he'll say, but where the rubber meets the road, and he'll make a statement, right? And I think people always miss that part. Where like he talks like forever on so many different audios about not getting locked into a vehicle. You guys know what I'm talking about? He says, don't get locked into a vehicle. And what he means by that, right? He says, focus on what you want and don't just be like, this is the only way to get it. And he talks about that in so many different angles. And yours is your command. He talks about, you think you want Mary, you want Mary. I want Mary. She's the most perfect girl for me, or vice versa. You want Tommy. He's a perfect guy for me, whatever. But that's focusing on the how. That's focusing on the vehicle. What you want is a fulfilling relationship that, you guys push each other. You guys have great sex, all that stuff. And the big point with that is that everybody forgets that part as a concept. And they think, okay, with my old thinking, before I heard of law of attraction, I always wanted to be a blank, right? And then they're like, oh my God, all I have to do is change how I think about blank, and then I'll be able to get it. But I mean, is that how the NBA works? Like if you wanted to get into the NBA, now all you have to do is believe in like one ideology, right? And you just, no, but seriously, like back before that, I don't know, FIFA, soccer, all that stuff. It's like if you wanted to join the highest level sports, because sports is like, I think it's a great essence of the system. It's like we pay people for a bunch of bullshit that doesn't matter because it garners attention. It creates money flow. That's like the essence of the system, right? It's either you can perform or you can't. You could be the most positively, you never get down on yourself when you make mistakes, all that stuff. But who is the, among the greatest names of the game, the guy who just died, Kobe Bryant, right? Did you know him because he was the most positive thinker? Did you know him because he was always he outworked every single person ever? You know what I mean? And so it's like, I think within, just to get it flowing is, why do you guys think it is that we put so much stock in, oh, I change how I feel. I change what I'm vibrating. I change what I'm thinking. And that brings me what I want.
Yeah.
Why do you guys think we put so much stock in that?
Yeah, so it's, I see it as an instant gratification in that I feel bad I don't have this thing. So it feels better feeling good that I don't have it. Just
Becoming
because
okay
feeling
with it.
good feels better than feeling bad,
Mhm.
which doesn't change the fact that you don't have it. It doesn't change that it's going to come faster to you. It doesn't really change anything except how you feel. And people are attracted to feeling good. And so if somebody has told you that if you just feel good about things in your life will change, it justifies that action in your life. And there's a lot of people that talk about that. There's a lot of people that are like, love and light, you just feel good and the world is going to change. That's a whole movement, right?
And you ever notice those
that
people?
Justifies it.
You ever notice those people? They always have this one problem. And the problem is always, and I find this categorically, for me personally, in my personal experience, they always have this one problem that it's kind of irrelevant. It's not a big deal, but they can never make money for some reason. It's weird. Have you guys ever seen that? You guys know a couple of people, right, who are really into like, guys, we all have to, at 4 p.m. we should globally get together and meditate for this point, right? But for some reason, they always happen to, like, everything else in their life is like working, right? But it's usually the money point that's been a struggle, and they haven't figured it out yet. And for those who have the luxury, because they've made money and they know how to make money, and they have the luxury to do that without it affecting their life, they're never clear about how they got their money or how they're making money. Like, they don't talk about that. And that's a luxury. That's such a freaking luxury to be able to just focus on whatever you want and it has no consequence in your life. Because think about it. Could a child starving in India do that? Do they have the luxury to focus on how they feel?
No.
Basically, if we boil it down to the most fundamental point is they don't have the luxury to participate in bullshit. They have to actually align themselves with how the world actually works. Especially, for example, if you're in a business like we are, right? Where you constantly have to build relationships, right? And you have to take those relationships to the depths. And if you're bullshitting people, knowingly or unknowingly, it's going to result in you not making money. Because we've equalized money and actual value, like money and actually supporting people to change. The more you help people change for real and get real results in their life that last, the more money you make. That's why the most growth that I've seen, and I've been in through so many companies, right? The most growth that I've seen is from people in this company, because if they don't grow, they experience the result of it immediately. And to be able to think a bunch of bullshit and have a bunch of bullshit beliefs, it's a total luxury, because you're in some cushioned position where you're either getting money from the government, or you already have a business, or things are already taken care of, where you can have whatever beliefs you want, and it doesn't matter. But that is, in essence, not taking responsibility. But if we rewind, just looking at the difference of, I mean, have you guys ever asked anybody to explain the mechanism of how, if you're feeling good, why things would come to you? Like, have you ever had anybody like talk about that? Well, how does that work? If you're feeling good and it comes to you, like, how does that work? Have you guys ever done that?
I have. I've heard people explain it kind of like it's
Mitch, you sound
like
kind of far away, a little bit far away.
well, is it better?
Oh, nice.
Somewhat, yeah.
Lean in.
I tried to get it, more attractive.
I think they're attached.
To you guys. So it's attracted, we prefer. It's like I've heard it where it's like magnetism in a sense. So if I can just charge myself up with enough good feelings, enough abundant stuff, whatever your thought of abundance is, that somehow that magnetism alone is going to be like this gravitational pull, so that people or things just stick to you. Like somehow money just comes flying to you.
Yeah. Similarly, it's kind of simplified that I've heard it as, if you're positive, then simply positive things come into your life. Like, I'm a positive person, so then this person who is positive as well will see me and be like, yo, let's connect. Or just me being positive will bring positive environments or things, and just that positivity will attract more positivity.
That almost sounds like it makes sense until you remember that like magnets actually repel things that they like.
Drake, but here's one of the explanations, right? What is it? So, but Guru, doesn't negative and positive attract? Not like attracts like. And Guru says, no. It's negative is vibrate. It's not negative is not vibrating negative in magnetism, right? Negative is not vibrating negative. Negative is vibrating, I want positive. And positive isn't vibrating positive, it's vibrating, I want negative. That's why they attract. Does that make sense, Drake? Can you apply that to your life?
Isn't a negative person vibrating, I want positive?
Yeah. Isn't that what they're saying?
Yeah. And the positive person isn't vibrating, I want negative, and that's why they attract. That's how that example relates to real life. And my point is, it doesn't relate. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Where in essence, when I heard the explanation, I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense for magnets.
Yeah, it makes sense for magnets. Okay, no.
And
it's like that. Have you guys seen that Insane Clown Posse ICP video about magnets?
What?
I'll have to send it to y'all later. Oh god, it's amazing.
Cameron, that was the name.
The song's called something like Miracles or something like that.
Oh
And
yeah,
they're talking
yeah,
about all
yeah.
these miracles. And there's one part they were like, it shows like magnets, and he's like, magnets, how the fuck do they work? You know, like, like it's a miracle, you know?
Please said
It's a
that.
miracle.
Yeah. Okay. So there's so many points.
Mhm, mhm.
Let's just look at the starving child in India. All right.
Yeah.
So somebody can play devil's advocate if you want, right?
He
Well-
was the initial devil's advocate before we even get into that. Well, I'm me. I'm here. I'm good. That child in India, their divine source energy incarnated to experience that experience, and I don't really want to even think about them.
They're learning from their experience. They'll be
Or-
better off in the next life.
Here's the even better. Okay. Oh man. Okay. I can debunk all this shit. Here's the best one though. Here's the best one. They're there so that we can learn about compassion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
That was
Okay.
great.
I like that one
All
because
of
it's
the
true.
above.
I like it because it's true.
All the above.
But if you actually learned the lesson, then wouldn't your lesson be, hey, we should create a system where there's no more of that?
Right.
Mhm.
So, but no one ever learns that. The only thing they learn is, oh, I should be appreciative of what I have. It's like, but you have it at the expense of those people. So this is the problem with where education comes in. The only reason, I'm sure we're going to get into this, but it's like, we're not saying that to get something that you want to create, you don't focus on it and you don't remain relatively positive in terms of being able to get it and so forth, and focusing on the elements of how to do it, but also looking at why you want it. Like, there's a lot of value in the concepts of the law of attraction. But if your vocabulary is not aligned properly, it's like it can go one of two ways. Either it can become, oh, that's just common sense. Like, I focus on what I want. If I feel negatively, maybe it's because I'm actually focusing on it not happening. So I'm projecting, I'm not solving the problem. I'm not figuring something out. I'm not adjusting things. That could be one interpretation of it's just common sense, versus all I do is I don't need to focus, and I don't ever actually need to do anything physically towards getting it, because we're all non-physical. There is no physical reality. All I have to do is feel a certain way, which means, and if I feel amazing, that means I've matched the frequency of the thing that I want, and therefore it's going to manifest into my life. That's like the retarded version.
Yeah, so it's like I don't actually exist here. This physical body doesn't exist. I am separate from it, and I will live eternally as this
Yes.
being that is separate from this body. This body really doesn't mean anything. It actually doesn't represent me as who I am. It's separate from me, and you shouldn't look at my body and judge me. You should, feel my energy and experience my essence as who I am and what I am.
Yeah. And the reality is you
good.
can't feel another person's energy. You only feel your interpretation of symbols that you're perceiving.
KT says that
Yeah.
in Mastering the Success Mastery course. He says it. He's like, you don't actually experience anybody's energy. You generate it in yourself. That's the only time. One time. Whoop, ah! I heard that audio many times. Never heard it. A subconscious.
Say that again. Say that again.
This is how the law of attraction actually fucking works. Depending on what you want, and this is why you're fucked as well, if you think it's all about your feelings. Depending on what you want, that's the only thing you're going to see. So my law of attraction inside of me was saying, like, yeah, like I'm feeling people's energies and all this stuff. I used to really pride myself on that because I was really intuitive, right? And basically, yeah. And basically, it's just because I could talk really well and I could listen. So I was like, yeah, I know what people want. And I feel that and all that stuff. But yeah, like, it's like I omitted the sound of KD being like, you don't feel anybody's energy. You generate it in yourself. Because I already had my law of attraction that says, focus on what you want. And I want to be able to feel people's energies. Versus, so what the law of attraction, or to be clear, how I originally interpreted law of attraction, how many of us originally interpret law of attraction, and how some people are still interpreting law of attraction. We're making this to take you to the next step, to make your life start working. And what it shows, the way you interpret law of attraction, it shows what your priorities are. It shows that you want something for nothing. That's what it shows you.
Ooh.
It shows that
Wow.
what you care about most is to feel good rather than actually do. And we will justify our bullshit in any way. When I heard that statement of the starving children are there so that we can experience contrast. Do you think I questioned it at all?
No.
No, because it supported what I already thought.
It was like, oh, thank God, I don't need to feel guilty about it. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Honestly, it
They're
made me
attracting
feel so
it. They
damn,
create-
like the guilt was like, and like it floated off my shoulders. I was like, damn. And they said if I feel lighter when I hear a statement, that means it's true. That's another thing. They said if your body feels, if it holds up, right? You guys know this, right?
Yeah.
I never got into it. I've heard like muscle tests.
Are you doing a Nazi salute?
Yeah. Have you guys heard of that before? It's when you try to push a Nazi's hand down and they keep holding it. No, what I'm doing to clarify for those of you who are actually listening to the podcast and not that just that clip, it's muscle testing. And they would say like, okay, let's get a baseline. Think no, cloudy thoughts. And you're weak, right? Your body is not as strong. And now think like happy sky blue, right? And then like you're like, oh, damn, like, okay, cool. And now we got our baseline. And then it'll be like, okay, say I want to be a millionaire. And then like your arm's weak. They're like, oh, you don't believe that you can be a millionaire. And then what's the solution? It's never to like go study what it takes or like you know, what beliefs do you have about it? It's usually like, like, and then whoo, you should be better now. Let's test it. I want to be a millionaire. How do you feel? Pretty
Now it's
fucking
strong.
good.
Now
Yeah,
everyone
it's
else is thinking you should be a millionaire. Now let's see what happens. And then it's strong, and it's like, okay.
Dude, I was so deep in that game, man. I gotta
yeah.
be real. Like I spent so much money on like energy clearing, right? Removing the blockages. And we'll talk about the point of responsibility and how like why the only answer ever is to take responsibility for the point of creation. How was that thing created in you? Because if you don't understand that, you're just going to create it again and again and again and again and again. And that's how it relates to, I mean, you know, we got some good suggestions from the self-leaders call about talk about the different systems and what we can take that's good and create a new system, all that stuff. But basically, without our fundamental understanding, we're going to screw ourselves over, right? But going back to the main point is the way you interpret law of attraction and the way that our interpretation of law of attraction has changed, it shows what we prioritize. Because that, in essence, that's why everybody feels so good when they think about it, is like, oh, fuck. All I have to do is focus on myself and nobody else. Because consciousness is here to just experience itself. You guys heard that stuff before? Right?
Yeah.
Consciousness is just here to experience itself. And my favorite part is, and I remember dropping this on one of the self-perfected global hangouts near one of the beginning. And everybody always says, you know, we're connected with everything on this planet. We're one. We're connected. And I was like, and you know, I asked the question of, how would you feel if you were really one and connected with everything? And people were like, so good, like awesome, like blissful. Somebody said blissfully happy. And I said, no, wait. How would you actually feel if you were one and connected with everything going on this earth and in this planet? If you could feel everything that was happening on this earth. And people were like,
horrible. Be dying every second.
Right? Like imagine if 99% of your body was struggling. What would that look like physically? Not good.
You'd be like on the ground.
Yeah.
Rolling around.
Your
like,
mind protects you from experiencing all that.
Say again?
I said your mind protects you from experiencing all that. That's why, like, when something traumatic happens, you black out. It's like your consciousness shutting down to prevent you from having to experience the full trauma of it.
Yeah, it's crazy because,
survive.
like, I got into a car wreck a few years ago, and I don't remember the accident itself, and I don't remember 10 days later, but they said I was conscious the whole time, like yelling and like asking questions, and I'd like go into this thing and I'd ask a bunch of questions, and then I'd quiet down and be quiet for a while. And then I'd like kind of wake up and be like asking the same exact questions. And I did that for like, I don't know how long, until they finally just knocked me out with drugs. But I don't remember any of it to this day. But yet they said I was awake and doing all this stuff. And so it's like your mind, it just purposely, like you were saying, Cameron, blocks it out, like it didn't happen. And that's why women can have children again. Like their body naturally doesn't physically remember the pain they went through so that they can have children again. But the thing is,
well, actually, hold on.
That's a whole different point.
Well, actually, I want to give my perspective on that, because as a man, I obviously know more about
giving birth.
Yes.
No, but actually, just on that specific point about childbirth, you talk to Katie about it. Yeah. Because she didn't use any drugs or anything.
Yeah.
And she gave birth to our kids naturally, and she tells me it wasn't painful.
Exactly.
And I'm like,
it can be that way.
It wasn't
absolutely
painful. So I think that it can be painful. I'm not saying that there are women who don't actually experience pain within it, but I also know that a lot of the programming we see around giving birth, it like reinforces that it's gonna be painful. It's like this crazy thing, like the dad's gonna be like fainting and all this bullshit, you know? So I just want to throw that out there because
definitely,
because she would obviously be able to speak about it much more effectively than I would.
We'll get her on here, right?
But my point is, she didn't do anything to cover that up, right? She also worked with like breathing and all these points. So I don't know, maybe it could have been
on here one time.
And
I would have to probably not be here.
Okay,
fine.
No,
that's something. That's something that I actually experienced
like
as well with. So I had, after my car accident, they put a external fixator on my leg to grow back 3.5 inches of the bone that was eaten away and transported, and all this shenanigans. And after a couple months of taking narcotics, I decided to stop taking any of the narcotics or anything like that, because I was like trying to go to school and finish that while like high on all these drugs, and I'm like, this is insane. Wow. And it had already been like 6 months of me taking drugs, and I'm like, I'm done with this. I don't want to be like an addict for the rest of my life. And so I stopped taking these drugs, and I reflect back on it, and you know, I think when I was taking those drugs, it was more painful than when it wasn't. Because when I was taking them, it was like, I'm taking these because I'm in pain. And then when I wasn't taking them, it was, no, I am able to breathe and support myself without drugs. And it's actually just a physical thing that needs to happen in order for me to save my leg. So it was just like the frame of my mind just like totally shifted from like, just like abdicating my responsibility of like not actually feeling what's going on in my body and like all this stuff, to like just taking responsibility of what's happening, physically happening. And I think that's very similar with childbirth. It's like, if you have that starting point of like, I'm going to be in so much pain, and I'm going to need all these drugs, and I'm going to need to be numb and all this stuff, like, of course it's going to be painful. But if you come from a point of, no, I can understand exactly what's going on with my body, and I can come from a starting point of not needing any drugs or anything, then it can be very different, very, very different. But I will say, when I was taking those drugs, and initially after the accident, it was so interesting how your body doesn't really remember the physical pain. And I'm not 100% sure where we started this, but
this is actually a perfect way of looking at the whole law of attraction point, because basically we're all in a lot of pain, psychological pain, also physical pain, and so forth. We recognize that our lives are not the way we would like them to be. Our response to that is basically take a drug called feeling good to distract ourselves, and then through that justified, even though we know logically, common sense is not going to get us what we want, but we have to then do all this mental gymnastics to be like, no, it makes sense because science proves it. Quantum mechanics, all these things, it proves the law of attraction, all this stuff. But also you know, even though science says energy can't be created or destroyed, that would mean there's a finite amount. So therefore, I don't really know how there can be more every time a child is born. I don't know. Like,
Nobody
science
actually thinks about that.
Science isn't advanced enough to understand the law of attraction. Even though I'm using it to prove it, it's also not advanced enough to really understand what the law of attraction is. But that aside, all I know is my life is shitty. I want it to be better. I have a fucking low vocabulary. I don't know how to do anything other than just the specific job that I'm basically, it's my lot in life. So I'm gonna just try to pretend that I'm positive all the time, even though I'm actually not in my own self.
Don't you think that that's the problem with law of attraction in general?
It's not a problem with law of attraction itself, though. But yeah, I mean,
no, but with that person, like with their idea of what law of attraction is, if they actually understood the vocabulary necessary to move and bring that thing into their life, they wouldn't just have to think about it, as well as understanding that just thinking about it isn't going to bring that thing into their life.
Do y'all think Bill Gates uses the law of attraction?
No.
Like, does he care whether it exists or not? Do you think he
or Warren Buffett?
To thinking about, hey, I
Is
wonder
it
if
because they're vibrating so positively all the time that things just are manifesting, or is it because he understands how computer systems work and how business works and how corporations work and networking and all this other stuff, and he has like a really developed vocabulary around lots of things and the ability to communicate?
Yeah, but Cameron, he only let me see here. It's because building a computer has made him feel good. That's why. That's why.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you're good at something, it feels good when you do it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like when you know how to do something.
Good at it.
But you know what I'm saying? When you know how to do something and you're good at it, it feels good.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're not, it feels shitty.
Mm-hmm.
And most people are not good at getting what they need in life. And so they feel shitty. And they think if they feel positive, it'll make that thing happen. It's literally, it's like the person who looks at some piece of artwork and goes, oh, anybody could do that. And you're like, no, you couldn't. Like, I'm not saying whether it's of value or not. I'm saying it takes a lot of technical skill to do that. Whether you appreciate it or not is not the point. Whether you like it or not, whether you think it has value, but you could not do it. Okay. And so they didn't just manifest it. They studied, they practiced, they made a lot of mistakes. It's like a process. They developed their understanding, their vocabulary around it. Same thing with Bill Gates, same thing with Mark Zuckerberg. And think about it. Who are the most effective at manifesting on this planet?
Those who are really
get all that money.
Really
those who are apparently the most fucking evil. So what does that tell you? I mean, is it about actually feeling but they feel great all the time? Okay. So then we'll agree that your feelings in themselves, even if they are making things manifest, are not going to determine the actual consequence for everybody else.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps that fact that you have a sense of morality about things is why you're not able to manifest like they are. That's a part of it.
That's a really great point, because a lot of people, they feel like, well, when everyone just feels good, then everything will be taken care of. It's that same, same sentiment of love is the answer. Just all you have to do is love, and then everything will be taken care of. It's like, but what you just said, okay, well then if that's the case, how come all these super wealthy people who are quote unquote using the law of attraction and feeling good doing what they're doing isn't actually creating a consequence that's best for everyone, and that is the essence of love, right?
They have the evidence that they know how to manifest. So therefore, by definition, they should be the most loving of all people.
Right.
So how can you ever question anything? And it's funny because people who are into the law of attraction from the perspective of, you know what I mean? Like that kind of lifestyle focus point are probably also totally into fuck Bill Gates and his vaccines and all this stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, you see the crossover, right?
Like he's the evil one. He's so evil and all this. Yeah. And
it's like the very people who are the best at applying the law of attraction are the reason why Kevin Trudeau's in jail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Drake,
that doesn't mean anything negative about Kevin, but the self-honesty within it is that it's just not actually how it works. It doesn't work on an individual level. It works on a collective level.
Yeah.
Right. What were you going to say, Jess?
that Drake's shirt is a representation of this exactly.
The Batman
Because
superhero.
listen to this. He didn't just feel his way into becoming Batman. He put himself in the position to get there by going through and living in the pit, and by training his physical body and gaining all this money. Well, I mean, he just inherited it, but like he had to physically make himself become Batman. He didn't just think about becoming Batman and he became Batman. So it's the same thing with all of this. It's like, it's the opposite. People think they can feel this way, so this thing will come into their life. Well, if this thing comes into your life, then you'll feel that way. Do you see
Well, how many
that's kind of
kids? How many
backwards?
kids have parents that are murdered in front of them and didn't become Batman? You know? And it's like he also had the $1 billion and all that stuff, the Wayne Industries and all that stuff, but that in itself
was probably a bigger factor.
like, why wouldn't he just fucking, you know, like be like, well, fuck this, I'm just gonna like go live on an island and fucking, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
so it's a really cool point, because it's like there's physical things you have to do. You can't just be like, well, I'm rich and my parents got murdered, so I'm Batman. It's like the bad guy comes up and beats you in the face and you're like, fuck, okay, I need to like learn karate or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's not gonna work.
So there's this,
You know?
there's this other, like, probably the most important part of the law of attraction is your emotional guidance system. Your emotional guidance system, right?
You want to explain what that is for people who've never heard of that?
And it comes from, well, from my understanding, mainly a book called Ask and It Is Given by Esther and Jerry Hicks, or Abraham Hicks, for those of you who know what channeling is.
You know, I don't know, actually, just briefly, I don't know if actually it comes from that. I
like
think,
they may have been referencing something, right?
meaning, yeah, like this concept has been in a lot of things, just for clarity. Of course, most people wouldn't necessarily know that because they would have just seen only one thing or whatever, but that's where it's been popularized, definitely.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's a better distinction. That's where it's become more popularized now. So the concept of emotional guidance system. Mitch, please. We never hear anything from you, so please explain it. Yeah.
Well, everyone, now that my emotions are high enough,
Hang on, Mitch.
We can barely hear you, though.
We can't hear you. That was funny, and now we can't hear it.
oh, right, because my emotions are all fucked up.
No, is it because, hold on, are you guys using the same headset? There's only one
Are your
microphone.
Are your feelings in alignment?
I think there's only one microphone, though, meaning you
I
can both hear, but
see,
it only does
all
one
right.
mic.
All right, here. Can you hear us now?
That's much better.
What the hell did
Much
you
better?
Yeah.
Damn.
Better audio.
Well, that's because I physically did something instead of just the audio. So.
What were you vibrating? Tell me what you were vibrating so I can vibrate.
Okay, I'll tell you exactly what I'm vibrating.
Life.
Okay, so emotional guidance system is this idea that each feeling has some sort of vibration to it. So if I'm really angry, it's like really dense. It's like a low vibration, right?
Like
Or if I'm
150
depressed.
hertz, like megahertz or something.
Yeah. And then if I'm like neutral, it's like right in the middle. But if I'm like love or peace or like excitement or joy, it's like this really high vibration. And so the theory is that the more you can feel the positive ones, the closer you can get to the highest one, that's somehow going to be like your guide for what I should do. And I see so many people, we'll ask if you can talk about this in a moment. It's just like people use it as justification for, oh, I get a good feeling, or I got goosebumps thinking about this thing. Oh yeah, it's like, it feels so good to me. And I will tell you, running a business does not feel good, and I don't feel joy a lot of the time. And it feels shitty and kind of scary sometimes. And you have nerves and anxiety. So you're on the low part of the emotional guidance system. But if I just bought into, oh, well, no, that's a clear sign I should not go out and make sales. Like, that's idiotic. And that's exactly how you'll stay stuck.
Okay.
Yeah.
Consider this then. So let's say you have the ability to influence how people feel based on certain things. I'll just say symbols, meaning literally like letters, words, but also just like running a business. The idea of that is a symbol to somebody. I mean, it means something to you. You have a certain feeling towards it, right? And there's so many ways in which you can think of anything as having some kind of symbolic value, right? So if I was able to influence the emotional associations people have to something like running a business or a pair of shoes or something, right? Then like, imagine like I'm in charge of the education system and I'm in charge of the media. And so I, from a young age, program a child to feel negatively towards owning their own business and feel positively about just owning this particular brand of shoes. Then when they get into their life and they're taught, oh, follow your emotional guidance system. Oh, making a business, that's not right for me. It feels negative. I don't want to do that, but this feels really good. I'm going to go towards that. Like, that's literally how marketing works. Mm-hmm. Not even marketing, like advertising, social engineering, public relations. Like it's the, on a certain level, it's the programming of the associations, but then it's also the exploitation of them. It's the knowing people have these associations. Most people have these associations. Okay, let's use these words or these symbols or these colors because we know the association people have. So there is no common sense within it. And that person's not looking at the thing going, okay, this is a good thing for me to focus on because one, I have the skill set. I have the prerequisite understanding. This is the benefit of doing it and so forth. And there's certain things I don't know, but I can figure these out. I have a plan for that and so forth. Okay, even though I don't feel good about this right now, I know I can make it work, or there's a high chance of it or something, right? Mm-hmm. Instead, it's, oh, I feel something. Okay, let's go with that. But that's assuming you should be able to trust your feelings. And where do most of your feelings come from? I mean, most of your feelings come from your parents. Like when they were like, okay, so for a quick kind of example, right? My kids, you know, even since they were very, very little, like my daughter's not even 2 yet. And my son, you know, they have like little Legos and stuff they play with, and they'll be scattered about on the floor, you know, like in the playroom. We're not like, oh, we got to pick those up because Seneca might put them in our mouth, even when she was very young. It's not that we wouldn't be aware of the situation, but the reason why we were able to not have that fear per se is because when she would pick stuff up, we wouldn't slap it out of her hand or be like, don't put things in your mouth. No, you can't put that in your mouth. Don't put things in your mouth. We would instead say, okay, Cindy, like, do you see that little toy? Be very careful. Let's not put that in our mouth, okay? Because when it's very small, you can choke on it, right? But we wouldn't like grab it out. We'd let her hold it. And if she started to put it in her mouth, we'd be like, okay, I'm going to take it out of your mouth, okay? And we would, you know, if it was like she was like, oh, we would obviously step in, but that didn't happen. Meaning we were very specific in guiding. So it's like, we didn't create this point where we were always saying, don't put shit in your mouth. Don't put stuff in your mouth, to where they were like, I want to put stuff in my mouth. I want to put stuff in my mouth because I'm always saying I can't. And also, oh, I shouldn't put this in my mouth, this little thing or whatever. Meaning, because we're explaining every time, instead of saying, just don't do that. We're like, why in this? So if it was like a piece of grass and they're putting it in their mouth, why should I need to step in and be like, no, don't do that? Because, well, but what if next time it's a marble? Okay, it's not a marble. Why don't you say, that's a marble. We're not going to put marbles in our mouth. Here's why. And if it's a piece of grass, it's okay.
Because the kid won't understand.
Right, but that's my point. We're explaining to him, right? So we explain. And if they were going to put a marble in their mouth and they put it in their mouth, in the very rare circumstances where it happened, we would go and we would get it out, but we wouldn't freak out emotionally. We wouldn't be imposing all of this fear about it. And like, that's what parents do. No, don't ever do that, right? Because they're like, if I put enough fear into my child, they won't do that anymore. But that is creating an emotional association towards a particular thing, towards putting something in your mouth. And so what happens is later, you start to associate putting things in your mouth with some kind of, and it may not be fear. It may be like excitement. There was some kind of, you felt this kind of weird adrenaline rush whenever your parents did that. So now you want to smoke because it's exciting, or, you know.
I personally experienced that with food, actually. So at a young age, I used to suck on a blanket, and I'm sure at a young age, I used to get told not to put things in my mouth, things like that. And so now I feel I have to hide when I eat things from other people. Like, nobody else can see me eating this. Like, Mitch can't see me eating this chocolate. Mitch can't see me, how many bites I take of my food. Like, wait till he looks away. Wait till he's eating his own food so he doesn't observe me eating my food. It's like a subconscious point of like, I have to hide myself because I'll get in trouble if somebody sees me putting something in my mouth.
And that's that beginning of your life, which actually lays the whole framework
for then now, why as an adult you feel shitty running a business and you don't want to do it because of those first 7
And there's
years.
millions of these little tiny points inside of you that are all seemingly unrelated and you don't even remember most of them. And imagine if I knew a lot of people had that issue. And so I was like designing a product that was like called Sneaky Eats or something, you know what I mean? And it was like, you know, it's like some kind of thing where it's like the person can't see you eating, or you know what I mean, or whatever. Like a person in that situation would feel really good about it. They'd be like, wow. And they wouldn't even necessarily know. Maybe I would do the marketing in a way where it's like playing on that subconsciously, but not in an explicit way. You see what I mean? So it's like, imagine all the kids who were like told sex is bad, and they never explained what it is or anything. And now they have all this subconscious curiosity about it. And like, it's something naughty and I shouldn't be doing it and all this other stuff. And so the marketing can exploit that just by using something that's like, you're not supposed to do it. But then also there's sexual imagery that's not obvious right there. Then that person's attracted towards that thing and they don't even know why. It just feels like something they want to do. Like they don't even necessarily know why. So if we're all programmed in this way by our parents who had no idea what they were doing and it was all just kind of like random, then what's going to happen is we're going to go into the world and our emotional guidance system is going to tell us things that are just reinforcing what we're programmed with. So it's like, imagine if some evil genius programmed you to be attracted to the things that they wanted you to be attracted to. Now, obviously there's no evil genius doing that, but the system as a whole just wants you to constantly feel lack and feel like you're not good enough and feel like you need something outside of yourself to feel good. And so it's just like, we'll not actually direct any of that because we know it's just not going to work out and you're going to have all this conflict. So that makes a very good consumer because you're always needing to go buy something or get something in order to feel good. And so that becomes your primary purpose, is feeling good, because you don't feel good naturally. If feeling good was really the answer, okay, think about this. If feeling good is really the answer, how come no one, well, except for us, takes it back to the point of, why don't I feel good?
Yeah.
What if I could solve that for real? And what if the answer is not, I just got to go make myself feel good or focus on feeling good for myself? What if the answer was a systemic issue? Like we're being programmed to feel a certain way. And also we're being systematically, we're not getting certain things, which is causing all kinds of dysfunction, which is causing feelings of lack. And so what if the real answer to you feeling good all the time was to change the system so that everybody had what they needed? And then we felt good by default. And then we could even pursue our bliss on top of that, which would be even an abundance of feeling good beyond what you're even capable of doing right now. Because your ability to feel good right now is going to be limited by those around you. You can't say it doesn't, because that would imply that you feeling good has nothing to do with anything attached to physical reality, which means just by definition, mental delusion, right? But that goes back to what you were saying.
Some people may not even be able to see that because they're so attached to what the system has created now. So they see the only way for me to feel good is to buy into their products, is to look the exact way that the celebrities do, and to have what the celebrities have. And like, so then when you say like, oh, if you just had your basic needs met, you'd feel good. Then they're like, well, my basic needs are met and I don't feel good.
Yeah. Well, their basic needs weren't met, right? Because a basic need is psychological, emotional stability. So even in the context of people in the first world who have their needs met, like even a Bill Gates, does he have all his needs met? Like was his mother loving in exactly the way she needed to be? And was his father exactly the way he needed to be? Or was there some dysfunction? Was there something going on that made him have this drive to dominate everybody? You know, like there's even within the people who have those things, but then also if everybody in the world had what they needed, how would he be able to dominate them? Do you see what I mean? Because they would not feel like I need to go work for Microsoft to make a decent income or something like that. I could be doing my own thing if everyone had what he had. Did you want to say something, Asa?
It's a really good point, because it's like there's some point of control within him that's like, man, if I don't control this, they're gonna fucking destroy everything.
Yeah.
Right. But from going back to that, because what this originally came from was before the emotional guidance system, is the fact that our mind is here. we have a mind in order to separate ourselves from reality. And this goes back to if we were truly one with, and we felt everything that was going on in this world. Jessica said it perfectly. We feel horrible.
Mhm.
Like imagine how many, Karen, you brought up this documentary. There was a village in India where they, like, you could just be 18, 13-year-old girl getting raped 50 times a day by their aunties, uncles. Maybe it wasn't you, maybe it was somebody else in the village. 18 to 13, just 5 years of your life. Or maybe that's your life until you die. 50 times a day. Documentary.
How are you attracting that?
Yeah.
And in fact, if you think about it, what's attracting it is maybe it's because she's a female and men have a desire for sex or something and they're not getting that fulfilled. So there is an attraction point, but it's not a she's attracting it. Like, how can you really say like a child, an innocent child, is attracting poverty? Imagine how selfish you'd have to be able to accept that so that you can justify why you want to have a black Mercedes. It's like,
Wow.
why is that? Why isn't what you want every child? Why isn't what you want equal to every child has what they need? Why isn't that more important to us than the car that we drive? And now that being said, if you're focused on, okay, let's take care of this problem, then why is it a problem if you want to also have this car and so forth? I don't see an issue with that, especially if you know that you're going to use this to even support yourself further, right? So it's not about judging anybody who has any material wealth in the system, because we're all in this system and you're in a certain position. It's just when, and what I think is important people to realize is when you're not already pre-programmed to be in the elite, you don't already know all this shit. So whatever you think your desires are, they're not really your real desires, but also you're not going to get them. Like,
I wasn't going to drop that ball yet.
but you know what I'm saying? It's like, you're not
right.
going to get them. You're the reason you're here is to realize we need to create a system that's best for everybody. And then you need to use the law of attraction in the context of how it actually works, not just meditate bullshit. Like, how does it actually work, and apply it to then creating that system? How can there be a higher purpose or a higher thing to have on your dream board than that? Because within that, wouldn't you have to have all those other things too anyways? Because you're going to have to become very wealthy. So you're going to have if you have some kind of material desires, you're going to be able to get those too, right? But if you just have material desires and that's it, you have no sense of higher purpose, you weren't pre-programmed to have all your material desires met. So that means if you just go along with how you feel, you're just going to only go along with how you've been pre-programmed how to feel, which is to keep you limited. So you're going to have to change what you feel good about, so that the only thing you actually genuinely feel good about is creating a world that's best for all, because that's what's going to cause you to change your programming to be able to get into the position of the people who have everything they want. Because if you just go with how you feel right now, you've been programmed incorrectly to always be a slave. You're the perfect slave because you'll always justify being a slave. And then you'll even justify why the billionaires should be billionaires, while you also talk about how the government's socialist and education system is a problem and all this stuff. But the people who are determining that are the billionaires that you're justifying should be billionaires. So you can imagine someday you can be a billionaire. It's, if you think about it, the law of attraction, by accepting that it means you can just imagine whatever you want and get it, you are literally giving your consent that the elite can just create whatever fucking world they want. Because they know how to be more positive. They're in an environment where it's easier for them to be positive. So they should get to determine how everything is for everybody else then, isn't it? Right? It doesn't make any sense.
So, Drake, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say this is a good time to ask, like, well, how does the law of attraction actually work?
No, let's keep making it let's make sure people are fucked up about it.
I kind of like that actually, because here's the reality of it.
Way out.
Like, I have no interest in making these episodes like, here's how you do this. Like, go fucking use the tools. Like, go build your vocabulary, because you're retarded. You don't understand anything. So no matter what I say, do X, Y, and Z, do this, do this, do this, you're just going to try to put it into your little idea of what you want, which really is totally irrelevant.
Yeah.
It's like, we're not doing this to help people get what they want in life. That's not the point of it. The point of it is we're here to change the system. So we're really looking for those people who are like, you know what, you're right. Like, holy fuck, my whole life is a lie. I just am selfish, and I only ever cared about myself and my feelings. So I'm no different than anybody else I'm judging. So I need to change that. And I need to take responsibility for this world. So it's like, why would I give the answer to somebody who has no intention of, you know, it's like so many people where I'll give them some point of support, and then they'll take it, and then they'll get what they want, and then they just
fuck you.
Forget about that point of responsibility where I was like, you know, it's like, because what I'm always selling somebody on is taking the maximum point of responsibility. And then they'll get what they want. This doesn't happen to everybody, but they'll get what they want, and then they'll just, oh yeah, well, yeah, I'm still going to do that, but you know, I got to do this. They start justifying it. And it's like, you know, when that happens, I'm like, well, it's going to be about 6 months or a year. I'm going to get an email from them. Oh, you're not going to believe all this shit that's happened to me and all this stuff. And you were so right and all this stuff. And it's like, once a person does that 2 or 3 times, that cycle, I just stop talking to them. Because it's like, you're not going to listen. Like, I'm not going to waste my time trying to get you to do something you're not choosing to do.
And,
you know? And that's why, you know,
to be clear, anybody listening, Cameron is the most giving person. Cameron and Avery are both the most giving people I've ever met in my life. I'm telling you this real. I know I never said this to your face because I don't like you to your face, but
I'm okay with that.
but seriously, it's like you've always been there, even when you had really, like, whatever gain you got out of speaking with me was by far ultra outweighed by the time and effort that you put into just support. And I saw throughout me walking myself out of my delusions, and because of that, getting results in the system, being like, thanks for your help, man. Thanks, I'm just going to go do my thing. And there was a big point of responsibility where I was like, okay, I have to wake up to the fact of, because here's the reality of it. In terms of feeling good, actually feeling good, if your priority is actually to feel good, we know how to make that happen. Guaranteed. We have it down to a formula. It's kind of like if you didn't eat for 8 hours and you got really hungry, what's the solution?
Eat.
Is it to Mitch, don't give away the answer.
God damn it.
We said that we
No.
wait.
Think about it a lot first.
It's not the most obvious answer.
Yeah, get your emotional vibration.
But that the truth is, you should have said eat. But why don't we treat life like that? Like, if your fucking bedroom sucks, it's not about looking at your bedroom and being like, I got to be grateful for this, man. Like, where I'm at, man, you know what? This is actually a pretty good room. That's just you becoming okay with how it is. Because, and here's the point that I wanted to bring it back to with what Jess was saying about how, well, wouldn't the solution be that everybody ups their vocabulary and like learns about the law of attraction? Like, yeah, but what do we know? We know that most people have been through the school system. And we know that the school system by design is designed to ensure that you're no longer creative by making sure you don't create anything. You sit still. Like, how can we get people to sit still and justify it for, like, you know, I don't know, 5-6 hours. We'll give them some recess in between. Let's just make sure they don't do anything for, like, I don't know, a year to 12. Yeah, like, let's do it like 12 years. And then so that way they don't ever do anything. Isn't everything in your life gonna revolve around you? And then let's cement that these students are these students, and these students are these students, and these students are these students. And you have the jocks who can't be geeks, and you got the geeks that can't be. It's like, this is who you are, and you cannot step out beyond that. You can't change. So doesn't it just make sense that everything that we're gonna search for, unless we open like our creative ability, which is the whole point of these tools, everything that we search for is going to try to justify and reinforce what we actually believe we can do. It's never going to be change what I do in order to see what would, like, bring me actual happiness, gratitude. You can't even see that. because the way that our internal system or our processing, our logical processing, it says it's like, okay, so first question is, can I change or can I not change? I can't change. Okay. So therefore, because I can't change, so I want to feel better now. How do I feel better considering I can't change? There's not many options other than fool yourself and separate yourself from your reality. So going back to the food thing, it's like the only reason why you wouldn't just be like, oh, I should go eat food is if you couldn't get food. You'd be like, okay, I just got to stop thinking about this. I got to go to sleep. And then when I have a little more energy, when I wake up, I'll try to get some food. And so the point is, if your answer was, I got to tap or do a mortar, some kind of march, or some kind of clearing technique or some kind of,
Can I interject for a moment, Asif? With those points, but then also the point you said about gratitude earlier, they can be helpful in a moment when you need to just let go of the negativity.
Yeah.
So you don't just flip the fuck out.
And that's what I was going to say is,
okay, yeah,
that within itself is not the answer.
Value in those things if you understand the context. The problem is when somebody gets hooked up on it, like it's the only thing they need to do. And again, it's looking for something else outside of you to change you.
Mm-hmm. And so that was probably the most powerful thing, which we'll get into, is like just writing is not going to change your life. Just doing tapping, just doing water march, just doing this, it's not going to change your life. Those things are there. And this is what the whole fucking point of your wish is your command is. Those things are there is to get you to a point where you can go take action. That's it. Mm-hmm. Where it's a very simple concept. That's why
but again, without understanding what action to do, you're likely going to end up dying before you figure it out, because you hit upon this point earlier. You've spent most of your life not actually learning anything. How much time has Bill Gates spent learning stuff?
His whole life.
That's his whole life has been learning and creating. And it's like you spent most of your life in a classroom memorizing shit, and that was it. Like you didn't really ever create anything. And then suddenly you want to create things in your life. And of course your idea is going to be, they're just going to come to me magically. It's like, it's not how it works. And until now, the law of attraction has been abused because it's just used to sell people who are easily duped into thinking they can change nothing really fundamentally and get what they want. So it's only been used as a tool of control by the elite so that the masses never compete and they think they have the secret. But then also for those who are very attractive from the perspective of not just looks, but voice and tonality and everything and ability to present and so forth, to just get people to keep buying their shit and they don't produce anything of real value. So, and I'm not putting Jen and all that into that category, because again, Jen is what has made it possible for all of us to be together. But also when you develop your vocabulary effectively, you start to see within the training of Jen, they're telling you all of these points. It may not be quite as explicit as we're saying it, but we're also not trying to teach. You see what I mean? Like the Jen is more like the teaching and the step-by-step and really understanding stuff. So we're not trying to replace that. However, without the other tools that we're suggesting, you're not going to really get the full benefit out of it, right? It's like I can go to Harvard and I can have all the best textbooks and teachers, but if I can't fucking read, I ain't going to do anything, right? And so, and also if I have a belief about something and then I can't have that belief, if I'm going to get the value out of this course at Harvard, I'm also not going to be able to get the benefit. So I have to know how to actually go and restructure those beliefs within myself. It's not enough just for someone to tell you, you got to change what you believe. He's like, okay, I'll do that. Well, your actions will show whether you've actually changed it or not. And so it's easier said than, it's not actually easier, but what I'm saying is you actually have to know how to do it. It's not just you are aware of it and then suddenly it changes. It's like I've been watching these cool videos, these tutorial videos, and this guy made this point. He goes, I don't really focus so much on these videos, on the actual, I'm more focused on concepts. He said, so I'm teaching you what you need to go train, people think that you watch a video and then you know it and then you got it. He's like, no, I'm telling you what you need to go train so that it becomes habit, not you learned about the concept and now you've got it. He's like, I'm just teaching you the concepts. I'm not giving you the training, meaning you have to take the concept, apply it until it becomes habitual, and you can do it without thinking. Now you've got it. Not, I know about it. Most people do is they try to collect information. And so like they know about the law of attraction. They know about the spirituality and the dimensional realms of the levels of energy and the emotional tone scales. And they can tell you all this stuff, but their life doesn't change. You know, and real quick, I want to go back to that point you made, Asif, about being giving and all this stuff. I've set up my life in a way where I'm motivated to give my time to the people who I can see have the potential to do something with it. So everything I'm doing is from a self-interested point. So it's like, in other words, when I'm talking to somebody and I'm, quote, supporting them, which is really just trying to get them to be honest with themselves so they can apply whatever
Get to the next step.
whatever to do something. I'm not like, oh, I'm this great person, I just go around giving of myself. I'm like, at some point, they're either going to buy something from me or they're going to make me money. Or they're going to make money, and then I know within the context of how they're making money, what's going to be the result of that and how it's going to contribute to what's best. You see what I'm saying? So it's not like I'm
I was trying to make you
and I know you're not saying that.
I was trying to make you
I'm
nice,
just
sure.
right, but my point is the context of how I've done it is like I don't have a choice. I'm not doing it out of kindness. So it's like if I'm talking to you, I'm also trying to persuade you on something. You know what I mean? And there's that's what you should do if you actually believe in something and you know what it is best. You should try to persuade somebody. You shouldn't let it go.
The real point of what you did over your life of personal development is shifting yourself to feel good by building a business, shifting yourself to feel good by supporting people so that they start supporting other people who start supporting other people. Because let's just be real. It's the hardest thing. It's the hardest thing to actually understand yourself enough to share that with other people so that they understand themselves, because it just requires all of you. And that's why it's the most fulfilling thing. Right.
And you know, also just redefining the word feeling good. It doesn't necessarily mean in each moment you feel something. It's like, okay, it's hard when you give analogies because there's always differences and so forth. But it's like, have you ever done something that didn't actually physically feel good, but you're like, I really feel good doing this, even though it's hard to do? Like, I feel good about it.
Yeah.
It's more of like an intellectual, it's not the right word, but it's more of it's like a common sense. Like, I know it was the right thing to do, so I feel good about it, even though I don't feel good about doing it. I didn't feel good. You know what I mean?
It's like paying the bills.
Yeah,
like,
or
I don't feel good paying this bill because I'm spending my money, but I feel good paying this bill because now I know they're not going to come after me and I get to keep my house for this month.
Yeah. Or like, if you've
working out, or, basically anything related to working out. It's like in a moment, like, fuck this, I don't want to do this 11th rep, this 12th rep, or maybe you're a real strength trainer, you're going for 4 or 5 reps, because I know fitness. You're busting it, and you're like, oh my God, and you know how sore you're going to be and all that stuff, but you're like, and I know there's going to be a physical sensation with like the endorphins and you actually feel good, but no, the idea of knowing that you're putting in hard work to get some delayed goal, it like, even though in a moment you might not be like, oh my God, I really don't want to do this. But even if you're all tired and all that stuff, it's like you always know, you're like, this was the right thing to do. And maybe it's in another concept, like
it's a good analogy. And again, the same thing applies to what
it's
I
still
was
limited.
saying.
Yeah.
Well, the reason why it's limited is because it's still within a completely self-interested.
Exactly. I know. I was trying to think of
so
one with other people.
It's like, if I can just try to be clear about the bigger picture, it's like, why do you need to feel good if what you're doing is best and the result is best? Now, maybe the assumption is that you must therefore feel bad in order to do what's best, but maybe that's just a program that you've accepted. Maybe you've been programmed to think you have to feel bad in order to do what's best. But also maybe we've been programmed to feel or to think that feeling good means feeling good all the time, even when it doesn't make sense. Like if we're in a system that's producing conditions and environments where we're mostly going to feel bad because that's the result of the environment and it's the consequence of being in that environment, then the only way to change it so you feel good all the time is to change the environment. But that'll take time. And if it's more convenient to just go along with it, it's going to take effort to change it. It might not seem to feel good in the moments where you're really having to push past your beliefs, limitations, your fears, etc. Those things are going to temporarily feel bad. But the long-term result is you change the environment so that you can feel good long-term, or other people can feel good even if you're gone. It's just like defining feeling good in this very limited, self-interested context that is so limited. What's up, Joe?
Yeah, so it's easier to put effort forth if you personally are going to be experiencing the results short term, especially if not instantly, but to be able to have the vision to see that your effort is going to long term be what's best for each individual on earth and or life in general is a very huge concept that a lot of people since their birth have been programmed with. They have to take care of themselves because their parents are just taking care of themselves. Their parents aren't really doing what's best for them. The people around them aren't really doing what's best for them. It's like since birth, you've had to look out for yourself. I've had to speak when I'm hungry. I've had to speak when my diaper's dirty. I've had to speak when, somebody's hurting me or whatever it is. Like you have to speak up for yourself. You have to put effort forth in order for you to have your basic needs met. And so that's all we've known. And so it's very hard to see outside of that and to see that you can put effort forth to create a system where that is no longer needed. And
so that point, going back to the whole emotional guidance system, the reason why you shouldn't follow your emotions is because you have no idea where they're coming from. Because if you think you're, what is it? It's like a point of taking 100% responsibility of listening to yourself at the end of the day. But you're listening to the only part of yourself that was given to you by other people.
Yeah.
The part that you didn't determine at all.
Exactly.
Not consciously.
Right, exactly. So at the end of the day, so the point is, if you really reflect on those points of where your emotions came from, where your feelings came from, you'll just realize that it was what Cameron was describing earlier. You got it from some TV show, you got it from some movie, some commercial, some parent, mom or dad, some authority figure, some teacher. It's just your big brother, your younger brother. There's literally a million different situations. And it was all imprinted into you. And now you're following that. And then you're wondering why can't I blank? Or maybe you're at the point where you don't even want to consider that stuff, but you probably wouldn't be listening to this podcast. You probably would have dropped off.
And what if you could reprogram yourself so that you only feel good about doing what's best?
Yeah.
Well, then wouldn't you still be following your emotional guidance system in that context too? So we're not saying not to use your emotions as some sort of guidance. It's just that when you're programmed on purpose to feel good about the wrong things, well, then maybe you should be paying more attention to when you feel bad, because then it's like, that must be challenging something. Let me look. And that doesn't mean you just blindly follow that either. But so your emotions have a way of guiding you in the sense of you should pay attention to them.
Yeah.
You should be aware of them. You should see what they're representing. And that's where the tools come in, especially with the DIP and the writing process and all that, because you really take it apart and get to see, oh, this is what's behind this emotion. So okay.
It's reframing the emotional guidance system. And the purpose of it isn't to say, based on how I feel, that's what I should do. It's based on how I feel, that's indicating that there's something within me to look at. Your emotional guidance system should be the roadmap to what you should be taking apart within yourself. That's how it should guide you. It should be the guide of, oh, this was something that was put in me as a child that I have no idea why, but I see that it's the reason for my decision. But that's the same thing why a rapist rapes or a murderer murders. They're like, I don't know what came over, or maybe they do. Maybe they can logically justify it. But the main thing of, I know all of us at one point or another have justified in our head why we should just go choke somebody or whatever. But we don't do it because we have the processing ability to see the consequence of that. Very simply put, we have the processing ability to see the consequence of that. If you apply that logic to every decision, then what you should look at the end of the day is not your feelings that tell you to go choke somebody, but the consequence of it, or not your feelings that tell you that you should do this business or not do this business, or you should talk to this person this way, or whatever the thing is. Any decision should be based on feeling good.
Here's a perfect example of that. You know, like he talks about it, I think in Your Wish is Your Command, or at some point Kevin talks about, you know, this point in the Jen training. But okay, I'll just talk to you, Asif, because I know you'll be able to give me the answer I'm looking for. It's like, okay, so let's say you should always feel good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then why shouldn't you just do drugs? Why not just shoot up heroin every day?
Well, because
What would be the logical reason?
That's actually going to result in me feeling bad. Like,
but you will feel good in the moment, yeah?
Yeah. But somebody help me out here. What? Somebody explain why I shouldn't do coke right now. Or else
No,
I'm
drugs
seriously-
are off.
What is the actual common sense answer as to why you wouldn't do it?
Because you know there's going to be consequences to it, side effects.
Right. And so I think anybody who's looking at this, I'm assuming, listen to that. And Kevin's like, yeah, but that might make you feel good temporarily, but long term, it's not going to make you feel good, right? So you're like, okay, I can apply some common sense to this whole fucking thing. You know what I mean? Like, just because it makes me feel good is not a justification. Isn't that what we're saying? We're saying, let's take it to the real, actual, what's the real long-term consequence? Because what you're living in right now is the long-term consequence of people 1,000 years ago making their decisions about what they feel good about and all this shit. And that's what we have now. So just reality doesn't change like that. It's not how reality works. It takes time. Moving parts have to move. When you go on a trip, it takes time to get there because the wheels, like when you talk about rubber meets the road, the little rubber has to travel over the road that far. You don't just show up there. When you have a goal, it takes time to get it because things have to happen and movement has to happen and people have to wake up and go to bed and wake up and do the next thing the next day. And it takes time. So why not look at the long-term consequences of what you're participating in? And again, it comes down to this point of processing ability, because if you've just been programmed by the education system and the media, so you have a very strong emotional desire to have certain things and a certain lifestyle and a certain self-image, and you can't really apply yourself with any real discipline in terms of thinking things through common sense. What's the actual consequence? Is very difficult just from an automatic perspective to see like, oh, clearly the things I desire are just participating in the system as is, and it's not going to change. And therefore, ultimately, it's not best for all because I'm not challenging that at all. I just want to benefit from the system. And at the same time, complain about all the things and how it restricts me.
So
it's like, what?
For those in gin, right? For those of you who are in gin, let's putting that into context. Remember that KT is a master at what he does. And what he is a master at is being able to walk people from where they're at to where they need to go in a very step-by-step fashion. And he tells an amazing story of that, about how somebody who has heart disease or cancer or a disease. And he says, do you think that, you can cure the cancer? He's like, hell no. And he's like, okay, so let me dial it back. Do you think there are people who have had this disease and who have been cured? And he said, well, yeah, I can accept that. And so he takes them one step, right? And it opens up a little bit and you can see a little bit more. And that's the concept of go as far as you can see and you can see further. And then you'll see further. What he's doing in Your Wish is Your Command, what he's doing in level 1 is taking people from where they're at. And remember, when he made that, he can't cater to every individual. That's why for me, or for some people, maybe he talks too slow for your liking, right? But he's talking at that pace for a reason. And then you listen back and you realize you missed all of this bullshit because you were just in your head the whole time, right? Like, oh, he's talking too slow, and he just said everything.
Or people, I've heard people say like they just couldn't reconcile it with their Christianity or whatever. At this or that.
Right, which is a
some
good
religious thing, you know, or something like that.
And so realize that when the word emotion, if you look it up, it is the thing that you use when you can't reason something out.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you feel stuff. It's the thing that you use when you can't think it through. Now, what do we know based off all of our research? It's the average North American is reading at a 3rd grade or lower level. And he's speaking at a particular pace in order for people who read or who intake words, hearing or seeing, reading or listening. He's speaking at that rate because that's the rate that the average person takes in words.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why, again, he's very clear that he's not 100% honest in the first level because you can't handle the truth, right? Hear that? You can't handle the truth, Jack Nicholson, right? He does that so he can take you to the next step. He's not lying to you in some way that's going to harm you, unless you stop there, because then you have a bunch of bullshit. But the point is,
but also you're lying to yourself. That's the problem. That's
exactly
the real issue. Anybody wants to judge or like, oh, I knew he was manipulating. It's like, no, you're lying. You're the one deciding everything based on how you feel instead of common sense.
Exactly. Like
so
if
what
he
you're
told
saying
you the
is,
truth,
I want to know the truth. And you're like, okay, well, I'm going to tell you the truth. That's not true, blah, blah, blah. It's like,
yeah.
okay, what if I say it like
fit
this?
into
Oh,
what I
yeah,
heard
that
before.
makes sense.
Uh-huh.
But it's like, I'm telling you enough so you can get to the next point and the next point, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you get to the point where you realize, okay, now I get it.
Hey,
And
But
so
the problem is you'll see people who are not teachable and they'll just want to argue. But Kevin said, da, 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 da. Right? So at that point, I'm like, you just need Technotutor because you just need to use it for a few years because you're fucking stupid. Like you can't.
And you don't trust yourself at all. Yeah.
Right. You're not willing to, you can't even entertain a contradictory idea because you're afraid that you're going to get brainwashed. It's like, you're already brainwashed. Right? we did a whole thing on that, right?
Yeah, that's a couple of
The whole thing.
You made a really cool point about emotions being what you use when you can't logically get to the answer, right? When you can't actually understand and process the information. And then everyone uses their emotional guidance system, meaning basically they're just using that because they have no fucking clue. They can't logically see how to get to where they want to go. So
and then they can't explain that system.
Right. So they're just focused on their emotions. Like, okay, I just feel good when this person says this, and that is okay. That's enough for me.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's such a big deal because here's the truth. That's where everybody starts. That's where I started. That's where Mitchell started. That's where Drake started.
But also,
Jessica, I'm assuming the same. Cameron, I don't know.
But that makes sense though.
For me. Yeah.
That makes sense though, because if you can't actually understand the mechanism of how it works, that's what you're going to go like. It's like, okay, I can never figure out how to actually get there.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep feeling like shit because of that.
Exactly.
So let me just focus on feeling good because I don't know what to even do.
See,
It's
I
like basically
want to
giving
add
up.
a point real quick because we are so consistent with our kids.
Mhm.
And it's obviously with Max because he's almost 4. So
you can see it more.
Well, you can see it more, but he responds more to conversation.
Oh, right.
You can talk to Seneca. She can talk to you, but she doesn't have the same reasoning ability that he has yet because she's just 2 years behind, right, in terms of age. But now that he's almost 4, it's like if there's something he wants, like he wants to get 2 ice cream cones or something like that, and I'm like, it's right before bed. Well, no, I really want it. He'll say, no, but I just want it. I'm like, I understand that you want it, but we're not going to do it because of this reason. I explain everything, right? And he's like, yeah, but I really want it. I will say to him, okay, I understand you want it, but let me ask you a question. Like, would it be best for you? And he'll be like, no. And then the conversation's over. Like, and I'm not because I'm like, okay, done with the conversation then. No, it's like, but would it be best? He'll be like, no. And then it's like, okay, so then we're doing, and he's doing something else. Like, it's like he lets it go. So the idea that you have to do it, you just can't know everything. It's like, no, you're trained to think like that. You're trained. You were not taught, like your parents didn't tell you, okay, but look, here's the reasons why you shouldn't do it. Here's why it's not best. Do you make decisions based on whether it's best, or do you make it just based on what you want, which is better for you? And with a 3-year-old, almost 4, he can look at that and go, okay, yeah. And this happens all the time. Like if it's time for me to put him in bed, and we don't go to bed at the same time every night. And it just kind of depends on when he woke up and what we've been doing and where he's at and what we're doing. There's a lot of factors that depends on each day. And it's like, okay, it's time for bed, Max. Oh, I don't want to go up. I want to keep playing. I want to do this or that. Okay, I understand. But do you understand why I'm saying we should go to bed now? Well, yeah, but I mean, I want to do this. Okay, but let me just talk about it, because you're tired, explain everything. And then it's like, so would it be best for us to stay down and play and be tired tomorrow? Or would it be best for you just to go ahead and go up in bed? And we're still going to get to read and stuff and all that, but we'll be in bed and we'll get to fall asleep. And he's like, and then it's like, he doesn't even necessarily say yes. He'll just start walking upstairs.
Just go do it. Yeah. I remember
he'll just start going upstairs. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess we're going upstairs now. Like, because, even within me, I'm having to challenge my ideas of how a child would behave normally thinking,
right.
So it's cool to see it. Like when you focus on building their understanding and then being reasonable, and we'll say to him, like, if he's asking something that's not reasonable, we'll say, Max, that's not reasonable. Like if he's like, I want everyone to stop talking because I want to do something. Like sometimes we like to play instruments, like we'll play like the guitar and I'll play the piano or something like that. And one time he'll come in there and he'll be like, I want everyone to stop playing. We're like, why? He goes, because I don't want to have any noise or something like that. But it's really just because he's wanting to control the situation. He wants to play with his toys and he wants us to play with them or something like that. I'm like, well, explain everything, right? And it's like, well, I know, but I just want everyone to do this. And it's like, is that reasonable? And he's like, no. And then it's like over. So it's like we've taught him. And you might say, it's like, it's not natural for a child to do that. It's also not natural for them to be unreasonable either. It's just that since as a society, we accept that everyone's unreasonable and children should be unreasonable because they're dumb or something, I don't know. Therefore, that's the norm and that's what's reinforced. So neither one is natural. Natural just means in this context, you've programmed it in and it's done without thinking about it really. So it's like once we get to the reasoning process of this is what's best or this is what's reasonable, then the decision is already made. And that's how my son makes decisions. And doesn't mean he doesn't immediately make the decision right away. It may be a process where we're explaining and going through the details of it so he understands why it's best or why it's unreasonable or whatever. And he might have to stop and breathe and let the emotion go. But we're training him how to make decisions in a reasonable way that are best. And he has to be trained to do that. He has to be taught to do that. And you're trained to do it incorrectly, which is why the law of attraction at the level most people think about it, which is the 3rd grade level, is that, oh, it's so amazing because you could just literally not have to know anything. You don't have to judge yourself. You don't have to change yourself and everything can magically fall into your lap if you just feel good all the time. It's like, yeah, but the whole reason you're in this mess is because you don't feel good, isn't it? So you don't know how to do that. It's not going to happen naturally for you. You've been programmed to feel bad all the time, but not realizing, okay, if it was the case you could just feel good, why don't you already feel good? Why isn't the environment already reinforcing that? Does the environment play any role whatsoever? Did your parents play any role whatsoever? And if you have any inkling of, yeah, those things influenced it, then just realize at this stage, you can't just suddenly change it. You can't just change it. You don't know how to access your physical programming. You don't know how to rewrite that stuff. You don't know the operating system and the programming language and all of how you actually make decisions and how information is processed in your body. That's why we're always suggesting all these tools that we talk about, because that's what those are. It's starting to understand that. You're going to have to, it's like if you want to learn how to program a computer, you have to become a computer programmer. So if you're going to suddenly take responsibility now for you processing information in yourself, you're going to have to learn how it works first. It's not just a guess and check and a wishful thinking and your guidance system is going to tell you the truth. You're programmed incorrectly. I mean, that makes sense, right? It makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
The practicality of level 1 and Kevin Trudeau is him acknowledging where society is at. And this is a really important point going back to when I was talking about, if you're starving, You don't just, do some emotional stuff to make sure you feel good. But you may need to start there. And the whole point of what KT is acknowledging within level 1 is, societally speaking, the chances of every single person who listens to this being in a pretty shitty spot emotionally is very high.
Yeah.
It's very high because they're looking for answers. And so step 1 is, if you go out and talk to people right now, no one will want to talk to you because you hate your fucking life, or you're just bitter, or you're trying to figure out and you're like, you're too much, because whatever it is, it's just your emotions and your feelings are like screwing with you. So even if I said, hey, the solution is to like go get a job, like you're just too depressed. If that's where you're starting from. Okay. And if you're already in a job and you want to go open a business, the reason you haven't done it yet is because you don't have that self-esteem. So where he's recommending the first place you start is to get excited, because before your wish is your command, before Jin, nobody ever asked me what my dream was.
Yeah.
Are you high? I got in trouble for daydreaming in class. Right? No one ever done that before. And then I got my brother being like, Asif, let's write down all the things we want. I'm like, are you like,
You're like, I can do that?
Exactly. I'm like,
That's allowed?
That doesn't make sense, dude. Like, why would you do that? It's a waste of time. He's like, but think about it. Like, if you start stretching your imagination, then you'll be able to see more. You'll be able to consider things that you haven't considered before. It doesn't stop there, though. And that's the whole point. That's why it's level 1. That's why it's level 1. You don't stop at level 1. That's where you begin. And so that's what I mean when KT does an incredible job of starting you where you're at. He doesn't say, okay, focus on feeling good so then you can start going through all of your traumas and things and stepping on the rat and, explaining to yourself all the bullshit in your life and then taking 100% responsibility, like patting on leadership and leading yourself and like making sure you build a business so that you have a money-making machine. Because if I told you, hey, make sure you feel good so I can put you to work, you're going to be like, whoa, buddy, good try, you motherfucker. I know I can't do that. So he starts you where you're at. And that is the value, is before you go and be effective, if you're going to be effective in anything and you feel like total shit, it's not going to work. If you can't motivate, and again, going back to that little food analogy of starving, if you're too depressed to want to get out of bed, maybe your logical conclusion is, I should just stay here. And probably everybody listening to this on this have probably felt like that before. But the purpose of motivating yourself to feel better is to go physically do things to keep you out of that position in the future. Somebody explained it really well in the past I think it was Jordan Peterson actually, how the way, for example, one of the reasons women are quote unquote better than men at multitasking is because they're more responsible for what's going on right now. I have to make sure this environment's good because I have to take care of baby and make sure everything's safe. Versus man is like more likely to be very just one track minded and kind of think a little more, forget how I feel right now. I got to think about feeding my family right now. Doesn't matter how I feel. And I'm going to have to feed them tomorrow. And next week, when that day comes, I'm going to have to feed them that day too. And the day after that, and the day after that, and the day after that, and the day after that. Logically speaking, what if I could produce a system that provides for my family so then I don't have to think about that anymore and I can think about something else or the next step or whatever it is. And that's what the equivalent of building a business is.
Yeah. And
this is a really, really key component because however you think about your feelings, I don't know how deep we'll go with this, but however you think about your feelings is the same way you think about money. And if you're just doing things to try to feel good, you're going to be caught in a never-ending loop of just trying to feel good. If you're just doing things to try to make money, you're going to be caught in a never-ending loop of just trying to make money.
Yeah.
Versus putting a system in place that automatically produces a result, and the byproduct of that is that you feel good. Or in other words, putting a system in place that automatically produces a result where the byproduct of it is money. That's what a business is. That's why successful people focus on business. They don't focus on, okay, how much money I'm going to make in this. They focus on what system could I put in place. You said something about how creators, they focus on systems rather than goals. Goals is the Coke hit. Goals is oh, I feel good now. I want more. But a system that hits goals, that's like auto-generated Coke kick. So you don't have to focus on feeling good. And don't do Coke. But what Cameron was saying earlier was, if you could just feel good like that, and that was the truth of reality, then why do you have to focus on feeling good? There's actually truth within that. As in, if we could create a world where we naturally feel good and we don't have to think about it, equal to how if we created a world that naturally always gave us money or everything that we would want money for, and we didn't have to think about it, think about it. What would you think about? You have no idea. What would you think about if you didn't have to think about feeling good and getting money? As in right now, are you thinking about your breathing? Are any of you thinking about your breathing?
Well, I am now.
Okay, so imagine if you had to think about your breathing, okay? In order to breathe, you have to think about each breath, and you have to tell your lungs to go in and then out and exhale, your diaphragm to move, right? And then at the same time, while you're managing that, you also had to think about each heart pump in order for your heart to pump, and you had to manage both of those, okay? So get that in your head. Try to do both at the same time. Now try to shoot this podcast. Yeah. Rub your belly, pat your head, right?
And try to play Call of Duty.
Yeah, exactly. The point is that the more structural points that are automated to take care of us within our body, the higher purpose that we can give to ourselves. And it's the same thing as a collective. It's the same thing as a species. It's the same thing as right? It's the more we automate the things that we already know everybody needs.
Seriously.
You know what I mean? It's like we can't even conceive of, oh yeah, that'd be crazy. If we had to think about our heartbeat, that'd be so fucked up. But it's like people have to think about eating. Isn't it just as visceral? It's just not immediate.
You know,
but
when they talk about matching the frequency of the thing that you want, it's like if we were to match the frequency of everyone having what they needed on a consistent basis, that would be creating a system that its frequency is, okay, every day, every couple hours, you can access the food you need. You know, you can get the nutrition you need. You know, it's like, imagine every day the food that you needed came. The new computer, that the upgrade comes or whatever. It's like the frequency, which is
like how frequently would you need that thing?
Right. So matching the frequency is not, oh, I just feel a certain way and that's the frequency. Because it's like you have to make this leap of logic. Like if I'm feeling really good, that must equal the frequency of the thing I want. But the frequency of the thing you want is actually the literal frequency of it. Like its actual molecular structure. That's the frequency of it, right? Like, so the frequency of love is actually everyone having what they need on a regular basis, consistently, not dependent upon how anybody, their whims or anything like that. It's everyone's consistently, every moment, getting what they want. They never have to worry about it. That would be the actual frequency of love. It's not related to a feeling. But then wouldn't we feel good being here on this planet as a result of that? So to match the frequency would be to create the thing you want, and that's going to give you the feeling. Isn't that what Kevin says is why you want the thing you want, is because you are the feeling you're going to get. If you could just match the frequency of it as the feeling, then why would you need to get the thing? Because isn't the thing supposed to give you the feeling? So yes, the thing is what gives you the feeling. So we're not saying, oh, you don't need anything outside of yourself. You don't, from the perspective of the motivation to create a world that's best for all has to come from within you. You have to work it out for yourself. You have to push yourself to do it. You have to push yourself to change. You have to push yourself to use the tools and so forth. However, nutrition comes from without, meaning food comes from without in your body. Oxygen comes from without into your lungs. So you do need things outside of your body. But then when you say outside of yourself, that just means yourself is reality. So you can still align that concept. You see what I'm saying? But then you have to just consider, what is yourself? So you're saying, I don't need anything outside of myself. But then your concept of yourself is literally just you. Well, that's a fucking lie. But if your concept of self is the entire universe, well, then yeah, we don't need anything outside of ourselves because everything is here. But then we have to align our actions and our actual starting point with making sure all of ourself is getting what they need. Otherwise, that's going to come back onto the individual, which is you, and limit you as an individual. Right? But I wanted to clarify that point of frequency, because it's like people just use the word, and it's like, but they probably got a C in their physics class. You couldn't even understand frequency. You don't even know it's the inverse of period. You know what I mean? Like, you don't even know what the fuck it actually is, and you're trying to use it over here to justify some magical thing.
I think the big point within the law of attraction that you just had, I realized within you speaking, was that people have used it from a point of separation. Like, I am separate from all of these other people, and I need to attract what I personally need.
Yeah.
Instead of looking at it like, oh, us as a collective, or this earth as a whole needs this, and this is what we can do to fix it. And I think that was just like a little segment of that. Yeah, exactly.
Because if you say no, but we're all an island, you know, I can focus on what I want. I don't need, it doesn't affect you. It's like, but then you're still looking for some things outside of you to come into your life. And it's like, if you want $15,000 check to just come in the mail, didn't that come from a bank?
Yep.
And wasn't the money at some level printed by the Federal Reserve? Money is a renewable resource. Well, no, it's not, because there's a finite amount of it at any time. Well, no, okay, if you're in the elite club where you can literally just go, we need more money, and they print it, then yeah, it's a renewable resource. But you're operating at the level of where it's actually created. So you can have these ideas and you can take these aphorisms and just like use it, but then how do you actually apply it? So same thing with the law of attraction. Like, oh, I don't need anything outside of myself. I am complete and whole, and I love myself unconditionally. But then you're just wanting money to come to you or something. It's like, where does that come from? The thing you're going to buy with the money. You didn't manifest that. That came from somebody else doing the job because they're a fucking slave. Like, give me a break. Yeah. So everybody's, what they don't realize is everybody who's applying the law of attraction or trying to apply it or wanting to apply it or whatever is literally a slave master. Because they're saying, I don't want to create physically anything of value, but I want it all to come to me. Even though I live in a reality of physical reality where other people have to then, because like if nobody actually physically created anything, then where would it come from? And you could say, we would all just manifest it. Not if you're trying to find food. So isn't that kind of what we're saying? It's like, let's all sort that out and have a system that automatically provides for everybody. So there's no more lack physically, because then we would all just start manifesting shit, because we'd all be like way more creative. We'd be applying ourselves in totally new ways that we have never even conceived of. But that comes after we sort out the first part. And just look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You got to sort out the first part first. And we haven't sorted that out for humanity yet. And we're trying to go up here and actualize ourselves. Why do you have a right to self-actualization before anyone else does? You think you're better than everybody?
Wow.
Just one wow.
I thought you were going to add something.
But
I can just keep talking.
That was really profound. That was really
But
profound.
it's just basic common sense, though.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
You're not saying anything profound.
No,
actually,
it's simple, yet no one's ever really considered this, you know?
And that's what Avery would always say. He says, guys, life is simple. The mind is complicated, right?
Yeah.
You have to create a bunch of bullshit in order to justify being able to separate yourself from everything else. I don't need any.
Because somebody's going to go, well, but Heidegger and Kierkegaard and Hegel, blah, 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 and then economists and da-da-da, and then, you know, mathematics and physics and all this other stuff. And you're like, okay. And yet you're still just doing all the same stuff that everyone else is doing.
Yeah. You're like, who built your house? Somebody else? Okay, yeah.
Right. Not Hegel or Kierkegaard. Like, give me a fucking break.
And
you'll have all kinds of knowledge that used to justify the way things are, but it doesn't actually empower all of us to create a real solution for everyone.
Mm-hmm. And a quick belief buster on the frequency point. was going back to the emotional. I like that one, Belief Buster. That's funny.
She likes getting her beliefs busted.
Belief Buster of the frequency scale. It's like placing value on if it's like a higher hertz frequency, then it's like more valuable. But is that how? Like, if you were listening to a radio station and you liked like 899, and like some AM like whack music that you didn't like was like 103.5.
That's how it should be, though.
Do you have to like it?
Yeah.
No, like, you have to like it because it's higher? Like, is it a scale like this? And what I would recommend is, right now I'm holding my finger for those people just listening, that it's not an up and down scale, it's a sideways scale. Yeah. That's what it's like on the color spectrum, the electromagnetic spectrum that actually has to do with real fucking frequency, oscillations per second. On the low end of the spectrum is red. On the high end of the spectrum is purple. So that means I'm supposed to like purple more than red?
That's why Satan is bad. And why the royal is purple and God is purple.
And the robes. And you guys ever see like at convocation at some graduations, they wear all these wacky garbs and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, think about it. That's the first world, the 1%. They're all doing all these like Masonic ceremonies and shit and don't even know it. They're it's like literally everybody's in a secret society. If you went to a high school graduation, like you literally did.
Why do you have the like
Masonic fucking like?
Yeah.
You know, also I was thinking about with the radio, they should have like all the like heavy metal should be like the lowest frequency on the station, and like the highest frequency should be like all that meditation music and shit like that.
Yeah,
it should just
like
be
106.9 is just like alpha like binaural beats. It's just like, and then like what is it at like 805 is like, or like 800.5, sorry, it's like yeah
it's literally Satan just like talking. You know, just so everybody's aware, like my wife and I, Katie, when we were younger, we did all the fucking vibration, and I read, Power versus Force, David Hawkins and all that, and we were muscle testing all the books at Powell's bookstore in Portland, and it was like, I'm gonna test these poker books because I bet they're low vibration. Oh yeah, they are testing low. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because they're low vibration, because that's just all about money and all this stuff. And we'd have like the pendulums, and we'd be doing the pendulums and all this.
The pendulums, yeah.
But it was like my whole starting point, all of it was just to find something where I could feel special. And it's like I always had that same feeling. Like if you read, there's a biography of Bill Gates called Hard Drive. I always like to use his example because he's so much in the consciousness right now. Plus, it's like he was the richest man in the world, right? So clearly he's the highest vibration ascended master that's ever existed. And, but in his biography, it said when he went to Harvard, he was studying mathematics, and he was only like the 3rd or 4th best student in mathematics. So he was like, what's the fucking point? And then he just started playing poker the rest of his time there. Until like his buddy came along and was like, hey, let's go start this company, right? But that's kind of how I felt when it came to like, if I would get into some kind of meditation or something, I would read a lot about it. But then I'd be like, I'm never going to be that guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm never going to be the one who fucking got it. So like, but that just shows that was always my starting point.
Yeah.
Was like just trying to be the guy that's like special. And I remember even telling my friend, who was one of my closest friends when I was at the Air Force Academy. And I remember talking to him when I lived in Portland. We were just catching up sort of. And I was like, I was that guy you mentioned earlier, where it was like you're maybe a little too much,
Hey, how's it going, man?
Not so much that, but more like, how sometimes I can be like really like intense, right? But imagine it's like that, but I'm like, no, dude, I've been reading all about everything. And like, what I'm doing right now is like, I'm focused on developing the Christ consciousness. And I'm literally, I'm going to be Christ, like I'm going to, that's what I'm doing. And it wasn't like, I wasn't thinking of it like I was going to be the one everyone thought of. It's just in my mind, that was the level of specialness that I was going to have. And I even remember when I was really depressed, back, like this is over 13 years ago, reading The Varieties of a Religious Experience by William James, right? It was like kind of the grandfather of psychology and so forth, in American psychology. And it was this book about all these people who were like saints and monks and stuff who had these heightened ecstatic religious experiences. And I remember reading that book being like, I know what my purpose is to become a saint. Like that. And it wasn't like I was going to go be religious and believe in God or anything. It was just like achieve that level of like focused ecstasy or something. Like I didn't even know what it meant. I was just like, yeah, that looks fucking
Jess
cool.
gotta go.
You gotta go. Bye, Jess.
See you later.
See ya.
See you later. But you know what I mean? It was like I want to be special. That's all it was. I just want to be special. You know, and I think that's also what the law of attraction, when you have the dumb version of it, is like, it just makes you feel special. Like, oh, I can just fucking manifest something, like I'm an X-Man or something.
Yeah, that was my starting point in like wanting to like learn all the different modalities and all this stuff. It was like I just wanted to be the one who could like heal people and like help people, and I wanted to be the one. I didn't want to like give them something where they could help themselves. Like that's crazy. I wanted to be the guy. And it was the same thing on like the whole frequency thing. It's like people would just be like, oh, that person's vibrating too low for me. I feel good, and I just repel all the people who don't feel good. But what I was saying, I remember explaining this to somebody at one of the events, and then they ended up getting it and being like, okay, now I see why I need to get technical tutored. I don't understand any of this shit. I was like, take the scale and like a radio, like the frequency scale of emotions, and just turn it sideways. You don't value anything higher and better as like a different radio station. It's just different frequencies. And whoever tried to convince you that, you know, it, like by chance or what, it's like always like the culmination of, okay, well, in terms of the science of energy moving in a wave, the whole point of an oscillation is that it's up and then down and then up and then down. Remember, and most of the shit I just got from watching Cameron's videos from way back and just talking with him a lot, but it just makes sense. It's like the whole thing is that if you're just focused on feelings, it's based off, like if you think of, you know, a wave on a graph, this is Cameron saying, like a sine wave, a cosine wave, doesn't matter. Just a wave on a graph, and it's -1, then 0, then +1, then 0, then -1, then 0, then +1. It's just going up and down. If you were to judge that point, like the point at +1 as good, it's because you're like judging it relative to the bottom part. But on any line or curve, you could just see it as a point on a graph. Remove everything else. What do you think now? It's just like some judgment that we have of, oh, like the purpose of life is just to feel good. And so that means feeling bad is bad. But it's like, okay, well.
It's like saying the purpose of life is to have only even numbers.
Yeah.
It's like
exactly.
It's so arbitrary. It's like
positive.
Okay. But the feeling good that people associate with it is not actually real feeling good. It's more of a convincing yourself that you're in that positive thing when you're not actually. It's almost like what it is people trying to convince themselves that they deserve something. So they like, if I can just commit and act positive and feel positive and think positive enough, the universe is going to reward me. It's not an actual, wait, if I just create what's best, then we'll have what's best. It's like, that's so obvious. Like it's a magical type of thinking that if I do X, Y, and Z, it's like we talked about with the Santa Claus thing. If I'm nice, Santa Claus will give me a present. It's the same kind of thinking. It's not to say, again, that we shouldn't feel good. No one likes to feel bad. Like we should feel good, but it should be as a natural expression. We're all at our utmost potential. So the feeling good is a result of that, rather than everyone's trying to go for the feeling good, which is so easily manipulated. And that's the problem. It's so easily manipulated. I can make you feel good if I program you. In fact, I just found a book. One of my friends, actually a Gen member, gave me a bunch of books that they had in their library, and I was just going through them. And one of them is this book by Frank Luntz. And I forget the name of it. It's like Words Matter or Why Words Matter or something like that. And it's this researcher who I've talked about before, probably not in this context, maybe in this context, who he's a Republican consultant, and he helps craft messaging by testing what words people react to, what words people don't react to, so they can put the exact message and they can predict how everyone's going to respond to it because they know how, using focus groups and stuff, how they feel towards certain words. So anytime you read a press statement, it's designed to elicit certain feelings. They're not saying the truth. They're not telling you the full story or the whole, how they actually feel about something. They just literally just lying, but knowing that you're going to feel a certain way. And you could say, well, that doesn't work on me. Doesn't matter. It works on everybody else. It works on the collective. So it works on you, because if it works on everybody else and that affects you, it worked on you. It doesn't matter how individual you are and all that bullshit. You know, I don't know. Yeah.
I was going to say that like such a key point that in what KT talks about is like, for wealthy people, if you try to look and replicate about like what the wealthy people are doing, you're going to fuck yourself over because you're not there. So you have to do different stuff than they did. So in other words, look at what they had to do in order to get there. Right. And if you look at, like, if you just look at the creation of Jin, and he talks about like, or just the creation of KT as he is today, he talks about like going to seminars and being like, fuck this. Like, why am I here? Probably felt like shit. He's like, I'm tired. This is bullshit. You know, it's like, he talks about how he, if you saw it that way, it's like, he talks about how he wasn't feeling good. But what he always learned from when he felt bad was there's something to learn. There was always like, oh, okay, like there's something that I had to take from that so I can apply. And that will be my way of building something. And
this is particularly relevant because just look at the state of the world right now. I think what happens is most people come into the law of attraction, they're just trying to get something for themselves.
Yeah, of course.
They're not even looking at the context of reality. Do you guys think that we can all get what we want and just ignore what's going on in reality?
No.
Or isn't what's happening in physical reality, a problem that we need to address? Like, our responsibility is what's going on in this reality, not just what we want. And so the reason why, in particular, I wanted to talk about this, and I thought it was a cool idea, is because you look at all the protesting, the COVID stuff, and people are unhappy, and now the Supreme Court justice died, and people are flipping out about that, and you know things are just going to get more and more crazy until the election and afterwards and everything. And it's like, we have a responsibility to stand up in this world and solve the problems in this world, which are basic rights based. Because what is it that the people who are upset, what is it that they're saying? They're feeling like certain people are marginalized, certain people are not getting what they need, certain people are excluded from reality and society and so forth in the system. That is a fact. The problem is their solutions don't make any sense because they're being guided and molded. Even though they have real legitimate claims, the solutions that they're presenting are manufactured on purpose so that they will actually represent more control by the elite and less rights for everybody. And that's the big problem, is the people who are arguing for these people need certain rights and so forth are actually promoting a solution that would mean less rights for everybody. And that's why people react to communism, because like, it just means everybody goes down to the lowest common denominator. That is in practice what is happening and what will happen and what is always happening in that context, right? So our responsibility is to stand up and say, look, we need to address these problems, because until we do, it's going to keep creating consequences, and people are still going to be upset and everything. And the reality is, it's never going to, like we talked about in the last episode about revolution versus evolution, it's never going to lead to a world that's best for all. Focusing on just wanting things to be better or whatever is never going to do that. We have to create it with our hands and our words and everything.
So the real law of attraction. The real way to manipulate energy, the real way to become an energetic master, the real way to actually engage the law of attraction. Drake, Mitch, you want to pipe in on?
I mean, it's quite obvious if you're paying attention through this episode. But it's realizing you have to actually go do shit. You have to look at all the reasons that you don't feel good, or that why you're chasing things that you think are going to make you feel good. Look at that for yourself, pull it apart, use the tools, specifically TechnoTutor and DIP. Connect with a group, connect with like-minded people, because here's the other part. It's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of time. However, look at it in the form of what are the consequences that are going to come from what you do, because it may feel like shit for a while. You may not feel good, but there is a payoff in a sense. That's how reality works. It's like a garden. You have to work, you have to plant it, you have to grow it. But at a certain point, it's there. And then it's stable and it's real and it's physical, and then it can give to others. So that's what this is about. And if you're just trying to do it on your own, or you're just looking for a quick fix and you're addicted to the drama in your life, then you're screwed. And your life is going to keep getting worse. And you're going to get smacked in the face by life at some point. And so rather than having life blindside you one day, and especially if you have loved ones and kids and things like that, it's your responsibility to take the reins and actually direct yourself. So we're giving you all the tools. It's TechnoTutor, DIP, listening to all these podcasts, connect with the group, go to selfperfected.com, but actually do that and then keep showing up. And even if it feels like shit, it will pay off. But it's on you to make that decision for yourself. Drake, what do you think?
Well, real quick, the group point is so important. I know you keep saying that because you can't do this on your own. It's not because you're weak or bad or just anything else or someone's better than you. It's just you need people to push you. It's about accountability, but not from the perspective of, okay, how many people did you call today? What's your income, like goals and all that shit. It's more like you're bullshitting yourself. You're not being honest with yourself. That's a program. Okay, you're accepting a limitation. You're reacting to that. Someone can, because it's easier to be objective about somebody else. That doesn't mean you just blindly listen to what other people say, but it's like being in the context of that group, also having that constant, like, this is what the focus is. It's important because when you go back into your normal life, quote, normal life, where there's other people who are just the zombies, they're trying to get you back into just going along with that. That's like the law of attraction, isn't it? It's always trying to pull you back into whatever the environment is, right? I just want to add that point. That's why we always suggesting going and join the Facebook group, because that's a specific point where you're going to get just, I was going to say support, but it's like, no one's going to be in your face unless you ask questions and you connect with people. But at the same time, that's a place where that's the clear starting point is, well, I'm going to tell you what I see. You can take it and look at it for yourself, but you have to use the tools, What do you think, Drake?
Yeah, I was just going to say, that point of like being challenged is something that I would not have been able to handle if I didn't first start improving my processing ability. And that's so key here because, we're talking about your wish is your command, which, I'm saying this at the end, right? But it might be a prerequisite to listening to this podcast. But that I listened to that so many times and I never actually understood what was being said for real, and it's because, like Asif was saying earlier, you hear all this other stuff that he's talking about and your mind kind of just goes off and wanders and you're thinking like, what's he talking about? What's he saying? And then you don't actually hear the actual message. You don't actually hear what he's practically actually saying or able to even understand any of it anyway. And so for one, raising my processing ability was key just to do that. But for two, then like you just said, I was really stuck in the way that I had been thinking about things and trying to fit and adjust all this new information that I got into the way that I had previously been thinking about things and the way that I had wanted things to be, or I imagined things to be. And so to have somebody challenging me like yourself, just, hey, well, here's the actual practicality of it. Here's what you're actually doing. Here's what I can see, kind of allowed me to take a step back and go, oh, okay, maybe I should do something about that. I wonder if I actually did change that. Maybe he's saying something that, might actually change things for me. Let me consider it. And that was also another thing that I had to raise my processing ability in order to do, because before I would have just become emotional and just been like, yeah, he just doesn't get it. He doesn't get why I'm special. He doesn't get why I can make this happen just from feeling good. He didn't really understand that KT stuff. You know, I got it better than he did, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
All of that all of that was at some point, those were thoughts that I had. And that is really like, it just shows there is a process to raising your processing ability, your understanding. It doesn't just happen overnight, right? But that it can happen without you having to, I don't know, meditate on it or like try to really want the universe to make it happen for you. It can be done very practically, because there wasn't anything special that I did. And it was really interesting. I was telling you guys before the podcast about this guy telling me about, you know, he sees so much in me and whatever. And I could see how if he would have said that to someone else, or me even 5 years ago, it would have made me feel very special, and it would have worked. You know, he would have sold me on whatever it is that he wanted to sell me on. But I can see now really clearly that I've gotten to this point here, not by being special, but by being honest with myself about like, okay, look, this is just how the real physical reality works. It's like, I love when I hear you say this, Cam, to those people who are all into, you know, I'm just here temporarily and, you know, I'm off in a spiritual world or whatever. Well, okay, well, right now we're in this real physical world, right? And why don't we learn how the real physical world, like, let's say this is just a program or whatever. Okay, well, why don't we figure out how this program works so we can best manipulate this program so we can get the best result out of it, so we can actually really experience it to the fullest, as opposed to, you know, what you think is what you're doing is like, oh, this is it, that's what I'm here for, you know. Really actually understanding this physical, there are rules to it. Why don't you learn those rules the real way and actually get a real result? And that's what I've seen within my own life, is just more and more. And, you know, lately I've been really excited about seeing what's going on in my own life, of facing those challenges, facing those reactions, facing those fears, facing those things where before, if I would have had like this kind of emotion or feeling, it would have been an indicator to me I should avoid doing that thing. And that's exactly what I would do, is I would avoid it. I would run away. I'd be like, oh, maybe I'll come back to that later, you know, when I'm more realized, as if it was just going to magically happen without me having to do anything about it, you know. Where now I look at those things and I go, okay, there's something there. Let me see what I can take responsibility in right now within this point. And I take responsibility within it. And then I look at it again and I'm like, okay, I made some progress. How much more can I do? What else can I do? What more responsibility can I take? And it's like you were saying before, I don't have everything completely mapped out. I don't know everything, but I can see the real practicality of, okay, I've gotten here and I did what I needed to do in this point. Oh, look, there's more. Okay, cool. And I can go and keep moving forward. And I can see the progress of, obviously this is going to get me to where I want to go. I don't see the whole entire thing of every step I'm going to have to take on the way there, but obviously I'm going in the right direction. And I guess you could say that's the real law of attraction.
The real law of attraction. Okay. If you okay, the real law of attraction. If you want to figure it out, just look at why you even know about Abraham Hicks or Esther Hicks or Jerry Hicks or KT or anyone. The truth is, you guys ever hear that thing? You can't want something if you're coming from a point of lack, you're never going to get it. You guys ever hear that? Like you have to have a burning desire. You have to have your want. But if your want is coming from a point of lack, then you're not going to get it, right? The word want etymologically, I don't think that's a word, but where it originated from is lacking. Comes from the word lack. To want means to lack. If a soup is wanting salt, it just means somebody's got to add salt to that soup because it's lacking salt. The real way to get everything you want is just, okay, this is why we know about Abraham Hicks and why we know about Jin and all that, is because they just found out what people lack. And I said this on one of the global hangouts, not the last one that Mitch led and was freaking awesome at, by the way. That was epic. The Holy Trinity, that was epic. And you gotta go in the group and watch the recording for that. But the one before that, the purpose one, I said, you are attracted to what you lack. That's the law of attraction. That's all we talked about the whole time. And all you have to do in order to get rich is find out what people are lacking and find a way to actually give it to them. That's literally all Esther and Jerry Hicks did, what KT did. He's like, oh, everybody, this is where everybody's at. So I just have to show that I can provide that. And the practicality of it, the way you actually become a energy master, energy manipulator, and you can make energy dance on your fingertips. This is the fucking law of attraction. The law of attraction is being able to attract things. You go out and speak. How come nobody looks at that? Everyone's like, oh, you know what, how KT built such a big business is because his vibration is the fucking highest. And when you shake his hand, you feel that vibration. You do feel something when you shake his hand, but it's just because you've hyped that up. You're like, holy shit, I'm about to shake his fucking hand. You shake his hand, you're like, oh my God, shaking his hand. But the practicality in it, if you listen to, have you guys ever listened to the affiliate development series in Jin?
Yeah.
Dude, this guy is a business building master.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
He's like, this is what you have to do. You have to go and talk to this many people every single day, and you're going to attract to a bunch of people. He's like, when you
It's
go
like you have
speak
to
to them,
present your business in a way that's attractive. It's
exactly.
Like pretty
when
obvious.
you go speak to them, you have to make sure you're enthusiastic. You have to make sure that you're talking to the person, you're asking questions, you're telling stories, find out about them, find out about what they want, and then show the people who you're going to get. And he says it in your, and this is for everybody who listened to Your Wish Is Your Command. You want the truth to open up another layer of Your Wish Is Your Command. He's just teaching you how to sell. That's it. What's lesson one? Lesson one from Your Wish Is Your Command.
Who do you listen
Who do you listen to?
And who do you listen to?
People who have
People
what you
who
want.
have what you want.
And
Have been,
Have been where you are.
hey, my name's KT, and I'm going to teach you how to sell. When you're going up to somebody, you want to make sure you present yourself in a way that's professional, that's successful. I made an entire audio series called Dress for Success. Why would you want to do that? So that you look like somebody who has success.
Yeah.
Because people want success. People will listen to people who have what they want. But you don't want to just be Bill Gates. You don't want to just be Warren Buffett, because people will come up with excuses as to why they can't have what they have, because they're different. So you need to be able to show or to explain or to communicate in some way that you're just like them. So people will listen to people who have what they want, but another caveat is they'll listen to people who have what they want and have also been where they are. So if you want to be able to sell people, that's what you have to do. But a really important point is you're just not going to sell everybody. The people you're looking for are the people who have a high teachability index. What is teachability index? What is somebody's willingness to change? The question that you can ask them is, what are they willing to give up? Are they willing to give up time? Are they willing to give up their beliefs? Are they willing to give up money?
You know, and I can tell you so many times where I've used this vocabulary in selling somebody, where it's like, well, how teachable are you? Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, that they understand, like, well, are you willing to, like, clearly you're not, they try to, no, I'm teachable. I am teachable. And they try to prove to you they're teachable. So it's like, you're being taught in one level, you're being taught what it is that makes people attracted to something.
So in other words, if you're listening to this and you're like, holy shit, I never thought of it like that. Ask yourself, how come we're able to see that and you're not? And it's very simple. I'll tell you the answer. That's what we mean. Because we're attractive. Because we're attractive. We get the law of attraction. Yeah. The point is that when we say processing ability, we mean when information comes into you and then you process it and then it comes out. What does it come out as? What result do you get? And the result of my thinking process now, to be clear, not when I first listened to it, not when I first listened to it 20 times, but now after I developed my vocabulary and my ability to process things, was, okay, let me just see who Casey is and take it in the context of who he is. And then it just comes naturally. But that's what we're saying is you have to be able to process these things, because even us explaining it to you is not enough. Like, you think you're going to go back and listen to it, you're going to see it totally different, you're going to change your life. No, it's like you have to do this with every single point in your wishes, your command that he talks about. You have to do this with everything that you listen to. And the real point of law of attraction and being able to, like, if you just let go of the feel good now point and look at everything else that he's saying, he's talking about, like, he says, when you're on fire, people will come from all over the world to watch you burn or whatever. What that means is if you have something of value, that's the main thing. That's why we're saying go to the group, because that group is something that you should be sharing with other people. That's why we're doing this. But the point is, you start expressing yourself. That's it. You start expressing yourself and you become a master of communication. That's all KT is. If you want to become somebody who has what you want and you look up to KT, for example, his gift is in communication. That's Bill Gates' gift. That's Jeff Bezos' gift. No. Steve Jobs, his is technology. No, it's not. He didn't put together that stuff. Well, yeah, but he was able to bring people together. He's a networker. How did he do that? Whips and leashes? No. Because you can't convince anybody to do something against their will, generally speaking. I hope not. But the point is, these are master communicators. And if you haven't drawn that correlation yet, not correlation, but very literal, logical conclusion, it's the people who can communicate most effectively in this world, who somehow, for some reason, always know how to use the law of attraction the best. They can attract whatever they want. Effective means your ability to produce the desired effect. So if you have effective communication, when you say, I want this effect to come to be real, and you communicate and then you get that effect, that means you have effective communication. And that means if you talk to somebody and they join with you and they're attracted to you, that's the law of attraction. It just comes from your effective communication. And if you want the details of that, that's step by step to actually do that. That's why we made all these resources. That's why we're talking about all this. It would be crazy for us to talk about all these problems with everything that we see and then not give a solution. And it would be crazy for you to listen to all these problems and become very aware of everything that's going on in the world and then not do anything about it. And what we're saying, what Cameron was saying about maybe you'll go through a month cycle, a 3-month cycle, a 6-month cycle, a 12-month cycle, and you'll be like, oh, fuck, things aren't working. Any point within you that thinks that you can have what you want without supporting the people around you and actually making the world different, you're going to keep fucking your life up. So the whole point of this is for you to realize that you can't just focus on what you want.
Oh, and by the way,
unless what you want lines up with reality, what everybody else wants.
The by the way was, what you thinking is something you're doing that's best for everybody is total horseshit. It's bullshit. It's not really going to do it. It's just something that you fit into it's like something that fits into what you want, and then you justified that it's going to help other people. Like, I always hear people say, oh, I want to start a school someday. That's my goal. You know, that's
that was my goal.
Hear this.
That was my goal too. That's
right?
what I want.
It's like, or I always hear people say, like, I'm going to create these places people can come, and they'll be like, they can do all this stuff and meditate and have all these resources and all this stuff. And it's like, you don't even know anything. It's like, you might as well just go into the timeshare industry or something. You know what I mean? Same thing with the schools. Everybody wants to create a school. It's like, you don't even know how to learn.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like this idea that was like, oh, the children next generation. So if you're a good person, then you'll, right?
Right. So it's like an idea. They're trying to fit it into what's their comfort zone and what they think they already know and so forth. So all I'm saying is the impetus behind it is really cool. But we actually know what to do. What you might say, well, how come you guys aren't doing it? We are doing it. We're talking to you about it. That's the point. We can't do it ourselves. We're creating the new 1% of the 1%. That's the point. That's really what this is about. Right? What else? Is that it?
I think that's good for today.
Go to the group. Right? Come to the group. The weekly hangouts are pretty amazing. I mean, they're just getting better and better and better, right?
Yeah.
Those are a lot of fun. Participate in the group. Go to the website, self-perfected.com, because that's where you can learn about all these other tools and everything. And I don't know, what else is there to say? Take action on these points.
Yeah, take action.
Don't just listen.
If you want to learn how to engage the law of attraction, watch this. If you join the group, you're going to attract a bunch of awesome, amazing things and amazing people. And then you're going to start talking to people about this stuff, and you're going to let go of your bullshit, and the law of attraction is going to be working, because you're going to start actually getting what you want out of life. Because I fucking guarantee you, if you join that group and you're in it for long enough and you actually participate, and you don't just go in there and you're like, I'm going to watch the stuff and can continue focus on feeling good. If you actually go in there and participate, I fucking guarantee you that you will make more money. That's why we have basics through, like we have a systematic course in there about making more money, about actually developing real purpose, because it's about the why and not the how. And if you don't get these basic concepts, if there was any point in this where if somebody here already listened to your wish is your command, and they heard something that they never heard before, and your wish is your command by listening to this, or got any different perspective, then there's a lot more where that came from. And because you don't get it, that's why you don't have what you want. So if you go into those groups, there's a really systematic approach to walking you through step by step how to actually get what you want. And hint, hint, it has to do with lining up what you think reality is with what reality actually is. So that's self-perfected.com. And there's the Facebook group, and that would be the numero uno place to start. Right? Cool.
That's it.
I got to get a hat next time, eh?
No hat guy.
All right.
Bye.
See y'all next time.
Bye.